I was looking around, half expecting someone to pop out and tell me it was all just a prank. It was just too weird, strange, and messed up to be real. I wished it was all just a joke, even if it was in bad taste and poorly planned. But it wasn't. Marcy and I weren't some young, clueless couple. We were both in our 30s and knew who we were. Neither of us had ever been married before, so this was a first for both of us. We were like two newbies exploring unfamiliar territory, and Marcy was always trailing behind me, apologizing for everything during our conversations. We had a lot of regrets, and I couldn't help but wonder why she was apologizing. It was a mystery that I might never figure out, but I was determined to try. We first met through work. I was the boss of a successful mine, and she was a consultant hired to do personality tests on our employees. Maybe she thought she could get away with what she did because she was good at reading people. But more on that later. In my office, she sat across from me and talked about the testing process. It was unprofessional of me, but I was intrigued. I couldn't focus on what she was saying because there was something about her that really caught my attention. It made me completely lose touch with reality and my thoughts. Marcy wasn't your typical beauty. She stood out with her tall, slim body and unique features. Some people might have pointed out her big nose or wide mouth, but to me, it just made her more attractive. Kinda like Julia Roberts, Marcy's imperfections only added to her charm. In my eyes, Marcy was perfect. The attraction was definitely mutual, and I was always happy about it. I knew I wasn't a classic hot guy, but my mom thought my unique look was a good thing. She always compared me to David Stern rather than George Clooney. I may not have been a typical heartthrob, but I had a strong mind and a decent sense of humor. However, it was hard to find something to laugh about during the trial period. Marcy and I exchanged flirtatious looks, but I held back until her contract was up. Then, I planned a special date for us. We had a picnic by a creek, eating pâté, brie, and apple slices. First, we picked some grapes and cherries. Then I showed her how to sift for sapphires, and she found the one I hid in her pan. She trusted me with her gem, and I turned it into a necklace that she wore proudly. But sadly, that necklace was the last token of her kindness before she shattered my heart. We went from dating to getting engaged in the blink of an eye, which now seems old-fashioned. Our whirlwind engagement barely lasted a year before we tied the knot. The joy of our early days together only made things worse. Man, these times are rough. How did we go from being so happy to this mess? Everything has gone completely wrong. We were so excited when we were hunting for a house, laughing and bonding while painting and renovating to make our dream home. But now it's turned into a total nightmare. How did this happen? It all started with a simple knock on the door. Marcy came back to the kitchen where we were enjoying our usual Sunday coffee and newspaper routine. She looked pale and scared. "What's up, babe?" I asked, worried that one of our folks had gotten into an accident. Why else would she be so upset by a knock on the door? Then Daniel Julian, found me. She was talking fast, her voice shaking. I put down my coffee and spilled it on the floor. I knew who Julian was. He was her first love, the one she had when they were both 17. They had a kid together, but their families thought it was best to have the baby adopted. Marcy named him and gave him to a childless young couple when he was little. She was drunk and thinking about him, wondering what he was up to. She asked in a shaky voice. I don't know, I replied. "He's in the living room." I got up and followed her into the living room, where we saw a young man sitting there. I could only see the back of his head, with dark wavy hair that seemed to come from Marcy. Marcy grabbed my hand tightly, her grip uncomfortable, and led me around the room until we reached Julian, who stood up and shook my hand. I tried not to show my reaction. Hey, I couldn't help but ask some questions when I saw Marcy heading in that direction. She never mentioned that her childhood crush, Jay, was Indian or Pakistani. Maybe that's why both sets of grandparents thought it was best to put the baby up for adoption. "Hey Mr. Goodwin, sorry for just showing up at your door like this. I didn't know what else to do." I smiled as I shook his hand. "Nice to meet you, Julian. You can call me Daniel." Julian grinned. "I've been looking for my mom forever. I just got here and things are. Been a bit busy, but couldn't wait any longer. I'm so stoked to finally meet her." Julian's English was on point, and I think a lot of girls found his accent attractive. I checked him out, hoping to see a hint of kindness in his looks, but the only thing we had in common was our shiny dark hair. His dad must have been a looker. Julian had that movie star charm, like the guy who played the love rival in the second-best exotic Marigold Hotel. Marcy grabbed my hand tight and asked if he could crash here. She was staring at me, waiting for an answer. Me, with those puppy dog eyes, I knew I couldn't say much without coming off as a jerk. Julian seemed pretty cozy in our spare room by the end of the day, and Marcy was clearly over the moon. I've never seen her this pumped up, not even back when we first started dating. She was practically vibrating with excitement. I wasn't thrilled about Julian joining our family, but I wanted to be there for Marcy. She's always had doubts and felt embarrassed about her parents' decision to have Julie around. If having him here for a while helped her, then I was willing to put my concerns on hold for the next few months. Julian's been around a lot lately and it's definitely changed things up. We don't do our usual stuff anymore, no more wine with dinner, no more lazy Sundays in bed with coffee and the paper, no more weekend trips to the markets. Even our hikes in the Highlands have stopped. We don't text as much either. Marcy and Julian are all about trying new things now, like cooking curries together and eating Indian food every night. Doing the same thing over and over again and trying different foods like steak meant Marcy had to plan ahead so she and Julian could go out at night. Julian's background as a Hindu meant he didn't like eating beef on weekends, so they went on trips instead. They subtly hinted that they didn't want me to come along because they thought I'd find museums and galleries boring. Evenings were spent watching them laugh and have deep conversations. They would sometimes give each other long, loving hugs. He called her Mummy with affection, like a young boy would. I felt like I didn't belong. In my own marriage, my wife felt like a stranger at home. I tried to spice things up by taking her on dates and surprising her with flowers, but her lack of response hurt me. I couldn't express my feelings without worrying about being judged. My wife seemed to be drifting away and I felt helpless to stop it. I helped Julian find different jobs, but none of them worked out. I even gave him and Marcy apartment listings and offered to pay their rent until they got settled, but nothing seemed to work and I just got more frustrated and angry. Our sex life used to be fire, but now it's just quick and lacking any real connection. The love and passion we used to have is fading, and it feels like my marriage is slipping through my fingers. Time seems to drag on as the months go by, and my excitement is dwindling every day. I might as well be living alone with how little Marcy and Julian include me. Marcy couldn't care less about my feelings, and she goes out of her way to avoid me. I thought she was just trying to avoid me for a long time because she didn't want me to call her out on her behavior. Marcy cut back on her job and now only relies on her part-time teaching gig at the college to pay the bills for their family. She feels bad about it and keeps pushing her partner to maintain their lifestyle. He resents Marcy for losing interest in her job, him, and their life together. The last straw for their new friend was when their actions started affecting his work, which is responsible for the well-being and safety of 160 guys. That's when I made a sudden decision. I needed a break from work, so I took a week off. I wanted to clear my head and have a real talk with Marcy. We couldn't keep avoiding the issues between us. I knew I had to make a change. I asked for time off on Thursday and only worked half a day on Friday to finish my tasks. On my way home that evening, I stopped at a store to grab some flowers and champagne. I planned to take Marcy to our favorite French cafe, away from Julian, hoping she would actually hear me out this time. And as a little bonus, I was craving a well-cooked steak. I was feeling optimistic about it all. I thought I could cheer up my wife by being calm and logical, so I walked into the house with flowers and my briefcase. The house was quiet, except for some weird music playing upstairs. I figured it was coming from Julian's room. After putting my stuff down and leaving the flowers in the sink, I went upstairs to our bedroom to shower and change out of my work clothes. The bedroom door was open and the music was confusing me, so I went to check it out. I was inside and suddenly stopped in my tracks. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, it just couldn't be real. My first reaction was horror at the awful image in my mind. Why the heck did my thoughts lead me to this messed up scene? What kind of messed up person am I to even think this way? The ground beneath me felt like it was moving, swaying like a damn wave. I couldn't help but gasp. The music in the background drowned out their breathing and whispering. They moved smoothly and in sync, almost like they were dancing. I was frozen in place. I couldn't move, my stomach was churning and I felt like puking. Her necklace, which I gave her, was swinging back and forth. I tried to look away from the upsetting sight, but I couldn't. It was like watching a terrible accident where people were in danger. You want to look away, but you're glued to the scene. My wife, the person I loved, was struggling, and it broke my heart. Marcy and Julian were in a tough spot. So basically, Marcy, who is older and knows more about people, was hanging out with Julian, who's only 20 and still has a lot of growing up to do. Marcy was definitely using Julian in some way, which really bothered the narrator. The narrator couldn't stand Julian and wanted to do something about it, but knew they needed proof to involve the police. So, shaking with nerves, the narrator pulled out their phone and secretly recorded a video of Marcy and Julian without them knowing. The video showed what was really going on between them. I was being a total idiot and doing something dumb when I suddenly felt a burning sensation in my throat while watching a video on my phone. I couldn't handle it anymore, so I quickly put my phone in my pocket and headed downstairs to the kitchen. I grabbed a damp tea towel and pressed it against the back of my neck for some relief, which felt really good. Then I poured myself a glass of water while still holding the towel to my neck and shoulders. I took a big sip and swirled it around to get rid of the bitterness before dumping it in the sink with wobbly legs. Finally, I sat down sitting at the kitchen table with my phone in hand. I had a quick chat with the cops and crossed my fingers they'd show up soon. The sound of the Stars' music upstairs was making my skin crawl like nails on a chalkboard. The tunes were awful, and I just wanted to get away from the nightmare my house had become. Suddenly, a car door slammed outside, and I rushed to the front door. It felt like forever before I got there, and when I opened it, there were two cops, one guy and one lady, standing there without saying a word. I nodded towards the stairs, and they slowly made their way up, batons in hand, without a peep. Man, it was all chill and peaceful, like a sitar playing softly, but then all of a sudden there were shouts and thuds and noises that made me jump. The room got quiet real quick, just the sound of hushed voices. I couldn't take my eyes off the stairs. First, a male cop came down, then Julian in just his boxers with handcuffs on. Marcy and another cop followed, both of them in shackles. Marcy had on her favorite robe, tied tight at the waist. She looked down, her face flushed, and you could see traces of passion on her chest through the robe. When she opened the door, she looked embarrassed and our eyes locked. My mixed feelings were pretty obvious. "He's not my son," she yelled, her voice echoing through the house. Her urgency grew as time passed, repeating, "He is not my son. He is not my son." I hesitated, not sure what to do. The officer's words kept replaying in my head, "You'll have a chance to prove yourself down at the station, Mrs. Goodwin." I headed to the kitchen, feeling the weight of the situation. The officer's voice broke the silence. "Hey Mr. Goodwin, it's Officer Kaplan. Can you show me the video you mentioned taking as evidence for the third time today?" I took out my phone and handed it to him. He looked at the screen and said, "Can I call you Daniel?" I nodded. "You're probably shocked," he said. "Is there someone I can call for you?" "No, I'll be fine. I just need to process everything. I never saw this coming." Kaplan pulled out a card and gave it to me. "Here's my number. We might need to meet up again. Can you lay low for a few days while we gather evidence for the legal stuff?" "Yeah, sure, I can't stick around here right now. I'll find a hotel instead. Make sure to keep your phone on you, we might need to chat." He disappeared, leaving me alone in the creepy silent house. Anxiety was everywhere and I just wanted to get out of there. I used the stairs to grab some clothes, feeling scared the whole time. I didn't want to see what would happen because of Marcy's lies. My mind was already filled with disturbing thoughts as I tossed and turned in the messy bed. I grabbed my stuff, keys, and briefcase, and headed out the front door. Just as I was about to start driving, I had a sudden realization that I probably shouldn't be behind the wheel. I pulled over haphazardly and parked the car, but my worries only intensified. I ended up parking near a busy coffee shop and found a bit of peace at a corner table. It was packed, but I managed to snag a seat and order a coffee and slice of cake. As I sat there, lost in my thoughts, all sorts of ideas and questions were swirling around in my head, creating a whirlwind of confusion. I was sitting at the table with my coffee and cake in front of me, ready to go. I took a moment to gather myself, feeling like I was learning basic skills all over again. Mentally, I told myself to lift the cup to my mouth, take a sip, swallow, use the spoon to scoop up 4 bites of cake, then repeat. The rhythm helped calm my racing thoughts. Marcy's situation was a mess. She was either having a secret affair with her son or denying it completely. I'm not even calling him my son, but was she telling the truth or not? Regardless, she invited her lover into our home and carried on their relationship right in front of me. Lies were swirling in my head after months of deceit. Man, I was totally blindsided by the betrayal. It was like a punch to the gut. I felt dumb and naive, questioning everything. Was Julian really her son? I mean, they didn't even look alike. His Indian heritage was obvious, but I never thought twice about it. Looking back, their interaction seemed sketchy. I was too trusting, and they probably had a good laugh at my expense. I felt exhausted. Can't believe that dude played me for a fool in every part of my life. How did I not see it coming? How did he manage to hide his real self from me for almost 6 years? It's insane that someone I thought was a friend could be so sneaky. I was staring at my cold coffee, empty cup, and just a few crumbs left of the chocolate cake on my plate. Put the cup down feeling kinda lost. Not having anything to do messed with my head for a sec. Get it together, Daniel. My friend told me about a similar situation and asked for advice. Without hesitation, I told them to stay safe. She showed her true colors, and now I have to be cautious around her. She's like a parasite, manipulating and deceiving people without any morals or principles. She's ruthless, maybe even a sociopath. She wouldn't hesitate to betray me again, as she already has. It's time for me to put myself first. As I looked down the street, I noticed a branch of my bank just 2 doors away, ready to welcome a new customer. I thought about only taking half the money, but then I remembered how I've been helping out a couple of troublemakers for months. In the end, I only left her $10 because our account was linked and I was worried I might need her signature to close it. I found out about credit cards, but mine was rarely used and had no balance. On the other hand, Marcy would spend a lot each month on her card, which was set to be paid off from her joint account. Marcy would get her university salary a week before her credit card payment was due, usually from her earnings. Marcy maxed out her credit card and left me with the bill. I decided to make it clear that we're done and I'm not paying for her mess anymore. It might not hold up in court, but it's worth a shot. I quickly checked the time, got in touch with the bank, and rushed to post the announcement online before it was too late. Luckily, I had my briefcase ready to go. Fate was on my side. After putting out the ad, I started looking for lawyers and got an appointment for Monday. This gave me the weekend to get all the info and papers together. Next up, I needed to get my house appraised. What was once my dream home had turned into a nightmare. Marcy had to deal with the legal stuff, or I was gonna sell it. I couldn't stand being there any longer. I found 3 agents on Main Street pretty quickly, and one of them was right there on the street. Perfect. I set up a meeting with Tom Harris from one agent for the next day at my soon-to-be ex-place. Feeling more secure with the safety measures in place, I felt like I was back in charge. But man, I was so tired. I decided to drive to the Sheraton, our go-to spot for hosting board members who come to visit. I knew they had fancy shops, a restaurant, and a bar downstairs. I sucked it up and bought what I needed there, even though it was pricey. I was too worn out to bother looking elsewhere. After a long day, I finally made it to my hotel room. I struggled with the key card, dropped my stuff on the bed, and just shook my head at how expensive everything was. After seeing the hefty price tag on those boxer briefs, I stripped down and headed to the bathroom in hopes that a hot shower would help me forget about the messed up stuff Marcy and her son did on our bed. As I stood under the warm water, I tried to wash away the memories of the past 9 months and block out my emotions by putting up barriers and protective measures. But no matter what I did, I couldn't stop picturing Marcy and Julian getting all cozy together in my head, with her pendant swinging between her boobs. Man, on top of all the crap I was already dealing with, the pain and disgust I was feeling was like a huge boulder crushing my chest. I was wondering if I was having a heart attack, thinking maybe that would be better than this agony. I was desperate for anything to make it stop, even death. I stood against the shower wall, hoping that time really did heal all wounds like they say. I called room service, looking forward to a juicy steak, but it was as dry as sawdust. Marcy's betrayal was the reason for my disappointment. I cursed her, wishing the worst for her. I crawled under the covers, still pissed off. Man, Marcy was the only good thing about my day. I was so emotionally drained that I passed out as soon as I hit the pillow. When I got home on Saturday morning, I was not ready for what I saw. Marcy was wearing this sexy robe and holding a glass of wine. Tom was shocked to see her half naked. "Daniel, we need to talk," she stuttered, looking unsure at Tom. The fact that she was on her third glass of wine was pretty clear. "Marcy, it wasn't even lunchtime yet, but you pretty much nailed it yesterday." "A picture speaks 1,000 words," I told Tom as I motioned for him to follow me. "This is the front entrance, and I'll show you the kitchen. It's pretty new, just over a year old." Tom seemed a bit hesitant, but he pushed past Marcy to come with me. "The countertops are quartz, the backsplash is glass, and there's a walk-in pantry." Tom stopped and asked, "Daniel, what's going on?" Without looking, I replied, "I'm giving Tom a tour so he can do an appraisal." "An appraisal? But we're not." "Hey, I'm selling the house, of course," I said with a grin. "Do you need some time to talk to your wife about it, Daniel?" Tom asked gently. "Nah, it's not necessary, Tom," I replied, turning to Marcy. "I want to sell this place, so we have two options: you buy me out or we put it on the market. We'll need to get it appraised either way." I continued our conversation with Tom, pointing out that all the appliances are high-end and there's even a wine cellar, which is a nice bonus. We walked through the house, highlighting its features and taking notes and photos. Marcy tagged along. Every now and then she was crying and trying to interrupt, but I just kept talking over her. Tom tried to ignore her, and I felt bad for him. But once the house was sold, he would get a big commission. As I let him out, he said he would figure out the value that night and let me know the next day. Another task done in keeping my life separate from Marcy's. I closed the door and turned around, only to almost bump into Marcy. She grabbed my arm to steady herself, and I could smell the mix of sour wine and her perfume. It made my skin crawl. "Tingle, please, Daniel, let's talk about this. Like I said, there's nothing to discuss. Please, Daniel, let me explain." I was looking at her. "Will that make you feel better?" "Yes, well, Marcy, after the horrible situation I went through yesterday, which was the result of months of hidden truths and betrayals, I have no interest in comforting you. Daniel, you're making a decision that you might regret later." I laughed mockingly. She must be joking. "Marcy, what exactly would I regret?" "Finding out about you and your son." "He's not my son, no matter what. What's with all the lies and shady behavior? Why should I regret getting played, being backstabbed, or being made a fool of? Which one of these would actually bother me? Our bond is fading. I'd miss our good times together. We make a great team, but losing your affection. I think I lost that a year ago when I was too naive to see it. Maybe I never really loved you to begin with. And Marcy, you've been distant in ways that really hurt me for months now. Adding your physical absence to the list wouldn't really change much. I love you, Daniel, that's true. But this thing with Julian totally caught me off guard. He showed up in my classroom and there was something about him that just clicked with me right away. I got a bit carried away with this instant connection and now I'm kinda obsessed. Marcy, you brought him into our home, showing affection and sharing intimate moments together. You told me he was your son, and you told my parents the same. Who knows, maybe he really is your son and you're a messed up person. No, 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 she cried. You can't actually think that. I'm sorry, I never meant to hurt you. Yes, your actions make that pretty clear. I replied, sarcasm dripping from each word. It's true, you have to believe me. No, I don't, Marcy. I don't have to believe anything you say ever again. You lost that privilege the day you lied to me for the first time. I don't want a divorce, she whispered. I didn't want a spouse who's a liar, untrustworthy and deceitful. Yo, my ex was hella manipulative, but it looks like we both dodged a bullet there. Daniel, please, I already told you he's not my kid. I'm really sorry, just listen to me. Your intentions don't mean squat, Marcy, your actions speak louder than words. As I was talking, I realized what I was saying was true. I knew I didn't deserve to be betrayed by her, and nothing you say can change how I feel or think about you. But you still love me, you can't just switch that off like a light. She was crying. The Marcy I used to know disappeared almost a year ago, if she was ever real at all. Whether it's all in your head or not, it doesn't matter now. You did a good job playing your role, but I've learned my lesson. As I climbed the stairs, I couldn't help but notice the lingering smell in the air. It was like the master bedroom still held the traces of a steamy hookup between Marcy and Julian. Determined to get out of there, I grabbed my stuff and started packing. I filled up 2 suitcases and a small carry-on, making sure none of their drama would rub off on my things. After getting all my stuff packed up, I closed the suitcases and got ready to bounce from this chapter of my life. I carefully went through each room, clearing out my belongings. I wasn't all mushy or clueless, I didn't just leave everything for Marcy. I only kept what I really wanted. I filled up my car with a ton of boxes and suitcases, but there was just too much for them. So, I hit up my dad for help with his trailer. Once again, I was thankful for my dad's ability to just get me without any questions. He knew to hold off on asking until later. I kept packing while Marcy tried to talk to me, probably thinking she could change my mind with her feelings. But her attempts just made me more determined. I shut down and saw her words as nothing but lies and manipulation. I had no idea where Julian was, and I didn't even want to know. When I heard my dad's car pull up, I turned to Marcy and warned her not to say anything to him. I threatened to spill the beans about what I caught her doing with her son. Marcy didn't say anything back. I made sure she understood by making her nod, looking scared. I opened the front door, and my dad looked at me. So, Marcy was giving me a look, then looking back at me like, "What's up?" I was like, "What needs moving?" I had my trolley just in case there's anything heavy. I quietly thought Dad was being smart. He just followed my lead, ignoring Marcy as she followed us looking upset and a mess. We didn't need words, just gestures to navigate through the rooms. Marcy's crying didn't seem to affect me, like there was some kind of shield around me. I wondered how long this protection would last. I hoped it would give me some space. So, after I loaded up the last of my stuff, my dad put his hand on my shoulder and told me to come with him. I just nodded, feeling the exhaustion from the long day starting to hit me. The drive was quick, and when we finally stopped, I saw that we were parked in front of a storage unit near my parents' place. I leaned against the car, realizing I hadn't even thought about what to do with all my stuff. We went inside and my dad took care of all the paperwork while I just felt drained. The attendant handed us a map with our unit marked on it. I found the spot and gave Dad some keys. I followed him and we unpacked most things, leaving only my suitcases and carry-on. "See you at the house, Dan." I nodded and headed to my parents' place. In less than 10 minutes, I was in the kitchen, sipping coffee that my mom offered. "We're here whenever you're ready to talk," my mom whispered softly. Her calming voice, the one I remembered from my childhood, broke through my defenses. I couldn't hold back the tears anymore and let them flow freely. My mom and Dad wrapped their arms around me, offering comfort and support. I was spilling the beans and telling them the heartbreaking story. My voice was shaky and filled with emotion. Their faces showed how shocked and unbelieving they were. "Our sweet Marcy, this can't be real," my mom whispered, shaking her head in disbelief. She always liked Marcy, so the idea of her being in such a bad situation was unthinkable. "What are you gonna do?" my dad asked, looking concerned. I didn't have an answer, but I knew I had to uncover the truth. With my parents there to support me, I felt a bit stronger. Feeling more optimistic that we could get through this together, I called the cops. I figured they're looking into it. Honestly, I was shocked to see her at the house today. I thought she'd be locked up or something. My mom whispered, her voice barely audible, "You better protect yourself, Dan. After what she's already pulled, you can't imagine what else she's capable of. You don't want her to run off with all your money." Dad and I talked a bit more, but Mom insisted I stay with them. Finally found a place to rent, thank goodness. Didn't want to be all by myself, that's for sure. I pictured being alone for a while, and it looked pretty bleak. Like a big empty desert stretching out in front of me. Damn you, Marcy Darner, for leaving me in that dark, lonely room from my childhood. Tried to sleep, thinking about a book I read ages ago that talked about dealing with tough times. It said setbacks feel like getting punched in the gut, but that just didn't quite capture it for me. It was like being shot point blank versus getting a mosquito bite. My mind couldn't stop going back to the awful memory of watching Marcy dance with her kid like they were a couple in the bed we used to share. The vivid memories of the scene haunted me, the sitar music, the sound of the sheets moving, the smell of Marcy's perfume, and my own shocked gasp every time I remembered it. My heart would race every time, a brutal reminder that I couldn't shake off the mental turmoil I was feeling, like getting slapped over and over again. I felt like I got hit in the chest real hard, leaving me struggling to breathe and in pain. It was like a strong gust of wind was tearing away everything that makes me who I am. My thoughts, feelings, memories, and interactions all just disappeared. It's not enough to say I was sad, it was way deeper than that. I felt like a hollow shell, searching for something to fill me up. Instead of love and good vibes, I was filled with anger and hate. I didn't fight it though. It was easier to let those emotions take control than to face my own doubts and sadness. My anger was like a powerful force, strong enough to match the bed I was sitting on. It consumed me, full of negative energy that I didn't bother to hide or control. It actually felt good to let it out, without pretending or hiding it. I was uncomfortable with it, but I pushed those feelings aside. I knew my mother wouldn't recognize the stranger in my brother's room. He seemed like a completely different person. The process of separating from him was tough. Rumors of possible incest spread quickly, making the news headlines. A week later, a small change popped up on page 20. A lot of folks noticed Marcy's shame, while I was struggling financially because the courts forced me to pay for Marcy until our divorce was done. This just made my ex's hatred for her grow even more. Marcy's divorce turned into a big show for everyone to see, and she fought tooth and nail every step of the way. Endless back and forth in conference rooms, battling it out with lawyers, felt like a never-ending war. In those tense moments, I could almost feel my hand turning into a claw, ready to reach across the table. So, I was totally ripping out Marcy's heart while going through a bunch of legal paperwork. The words seemed to be written in blood. It was intense. The worst part was having to go to court-ordered counseling for hours on end. Marcy would show up to the sessions wearing her jewelry, like as a constant reminder or something. I had to really hold back from wanting to choke her out, but we kept on going. Mary kept arguing that Julian wasn't her son, showing emails and stuff as proof. Despite our efforts and the counselor's advice, Marcy's defenses stayed strong, making everything seem even more overwhelming. She kept betraying me, causing me more and more anger with every setback and obstacle she threw my way. Her cold eyes showed the rage of someone about to snap. I saw how selfish she was. If she really cared about me, she would have let me go and put my happiness first. That's what I would have done for her if the tables were turned. When she was in love with Julian, it would have hurt, but her happiness would have come first for me. If she had chosen me instead back then, things wouldn't have turned out this way. Marcy wasn't easy to forgive after all that. So I had to go to these therapy sessions ordered by the court, right? And in those sessions, I found out that Marcy was looking for my forgiveness and love so we could move on. She wanted me to accept her and forget about the past year and a half before she could be independent again. Marcy asked me to help her stay away from her bad side, but instead I introduced her to temptation. I came across Julian, who was actually Ravi Singh, an engineer with mad skills but no official degrees. Another one of my engineers found him while he was on the spectrum. Despite his social problems, the dude was hella smart. Julian has always been a great asset to the team, coming up with some really cool ideas and making some amazing contributions. I'm so thankful I gave him the chance to join us 5 years ago. He's proven to be extremely valuable and super loyal. We did some digging on Julian and his family, and slyly gave him some info to help him reconnect with Marcy, even if she didn't quite get what he was after. Turns out Julian was after a quick way to become a resident in Australia. I thought he was about to get kicked out to India and had been stressing about it for months. Looking for Marcy, he was pissed off to find out that Marcy had also lied to him. She said we were in a messed up relationship, which really hurt him. But despite this, he decided to give Marcy another chance. Marcy, who was always apologetic and devoted to Daniel, didn't need much convincing. After their divorce was final, she quickly started getting close to Julian. Whatever spell he had was definitely interesting. My gut instinct was telling me something wasn't right, while my caring mother tried to reassure me that Marcy might just need to believe their relationship was something special. Based on a real deep love, a strong and all-encompassing connection, a love story like Romeo and Juliet, a love that Marcy believed justified all the pain, lies, and broken trust they had to go through to be together. Marcy thought she had it all figured out, telling herself and everyone else that everything was fine in her life. But I knew the truth, my girl Marcy was in a bad relationship. I stayed by her side, supporting her because I knew she needed me. Having someone to lean on, even if she didn't get it. At the same time, my friend Julian was chasing after Marcy, trying to win her over. Julian's hard work started paying off, and eventually he formed a tight bond with Marcy. They became super close and inseparable. Marcy was happy with this new connection, but I couldn't help feeling a bit uneasy. Then one day, Marcy dropped a bombshell: she was pregnant. This news surprised everyone, but Marcy took it in stride. She was determined to make the best of the situation and raise the baby. Alright, so Marcy was preggers and Julian was there for support. But then she started having some health issues like constant pooping and puking. That's when I started thinking, maybe Julian had something to do with it. Like maybe he fed her some bad curry or something. But Marcy stayed positive and was determined to make the best of things, raising her kid with Julian's help. As for me, well, I'll just have to wait and see. Just keep being there for her, being a friend and supporting her through all the highs and lows of her life. I couldn't be happier. Her tantrums ended up leading to her getting pregnant, and Julian proposed just like I expected, coming from his traditional background. Not that I thought Marcy would say no, that self-absorbed woman would never question why a young, handsome guy would be interested in a lady who's his mom's age. When I told my dad the news, he just grinned. He saw right through Marcy's vanity and innocence, actually. I was the one who came up with the idea for revenge. My gut was telling me I needed something more serious and intense. But even I knew it was better to stay out of jail for the rest of our lives. When a guy steals your wife, the best revenge is letting him keep her. That night, I found out Marcy was lying to me and I told a friend I trusted. They gave me some advice that helped me move on. Years later, Marcy was almost 40, pregnant, and married to a much younger guy. Just as I expected, they both got what was coming to them. Before their 10-day trip to the Whitsunday Islands, my friends really came through with helping me out. They made it so easy for me to handle my responsibilities, which made my job a lot less stressful. I had to give them a big thanks for that. Once they left, I was able to finally store all the garden stuff and aluminum powder that had been piling up in my garage for a personal project I've been working on. I really enjoy working on my hobby, which involves motor oil cans and different tools for making homemade fireworks. Luckily, I had everything I needed for my project. Plus, my clever friend got Ravi involved in a cool group that's fighting for some change. Religious stuff with pictures for the biggest mosque in Australia, Lemba. Shit was about to go down with Julian getting busted after his honeymoon. Some snitch ratted him out, but luckily the cops didn't go easy on him. That famous couple made news again, but Marcy's prego belly changed her look. Ravi got kicked out to India and can't come back to Oz. Marcy moved up to the Northern Territory. Australia is like the Wild West, looking for a new beginning. Marcy, a single mom in her 40s with a mixed-race kid, has been part of their lives for 5 years now. They're hoping she's using protection because her career as a teacher is struggling due to her sketchy past. Potential employers would find out about allegations of incest and ties to terrorism. They have no clue about Marcy's current job or where she's living now. We're fine not knowing anything about her or her kid. It seems like their evil side has some boundaries. It doesn't hurt kids. He couldn't keep hurting Marcy without it affecting her child. His dark side, a moment of craziness, had been dormant for a while, maybe even forever. Casey, his loving wife, and their lively toddler had never experienced his presence. Love, warmth, and kindness ran through him, giving him peace. A man comes home early after a late business trip. He asks the cab driver to witness something. So, basically, the husband thinks his wife is cheating on him and he's willing to pay $100 to catch her in the act. When they get home, the husband and a driver sneak into the bedroom. The husband turns on the lights and pulls back the blanket, exposing his wife with another man. He then pulls out a fake gun and points it at the man's head. The wife admits she lied about winning the lottery and that the man paid for everything. The husband lowers the fake gun and asks the driver what he would do. The driver suggests using the blanket to cover the man and keep him warm. On Father's Day, I woke up early like always, ready to kick off the day. My wife and daughters were still snoozing, so I knew it would be a minute before they joined me. Every year, I'd hook my wife up with a special day, just like she did for Mother's Day. Breakfast would be top-notch with a spread of deliciousness, plus some fresh squeezed OJ. For lunch, I'd whip up a bomb cheese, fruit, and nut plate, with a nice white wine to go with it. And for dinner, I'd serve up her favorite steak and baked potato, paired perfectly with a Cabernet. When the girls were little, they used to pitch in and help me get everything ready and spoil our mom. But as they got older and turned into teenagers, they started slacking off, leaving me to do all the spoiling on my own. It didn't really bother me though. I was happy to make our family's special day memorable. On Father's Day, I always looked forward to my wife surprising me with a special breakfast. Normally, I'd just grab something quick in the morning, but on that day, I waited for her to wake up and cook for me. She usually sleeps in on weekends, so this was a nice change. It was awesome when she woke up and gave me a kiss and a "Happy Father's Day" before making breakfast for the fam. Later, we had a blast at a Doctor Who-themed sandwich spot for lunch, making it a day to remember. In their super organized kitchen, this couple uses a calendar to remember all the important stuff, from holidays to school stuff. One day, the wife realizes that the husband's birthday is on Father's Day, but he's chill about it. Katie asked for 2 gifts jokingly and I laughed, promising to do something special for her this year. As I walked out of the kitchen, I couldn't stop thinking about the upcoming celebrations. I was hoping she had something extra planned for our intimate moments. Usually, special occasions like birthdays and Father's Day were extra special for us. It was a tradition we both cherished and I was excited for it every year. But as the excitement for my special day grew, something felt off in our house. My wife has been acting weird lately, working late, being snappy with us, and dressing up more for her job as a manager at the bakery and the grocery store. She never used to wear makeup, but now she's rocking a smoky eye that shows off her cleavage. The Friday before my birthday, she went out without me, which got me wondering what was up. She hardly ever goes out with just the girls, but she does like hanging out with a group of other married couples. If she's going for drinks, she always lets me know where they'll be and I usually tag along. Later on, he wasn't too strict. She just liked being around him. Their solid marriage was based on little acts of kindness. He also liked sticking to their group of friends, and they loved relaxing nights watching movies together. That Friday, she came downstairs all dressed up, catching me by surprise. She was wearing a new short skirt, stockings, and high heels. Her freshly tanned skin and styled hair made her even more attractive. I whistled, "Wow, honey, did we have plans to go out tonight? I'll hurry up and get ready." She was like, "No, Bill, I'm meeting some coworkers since the kids are going out too. You can order a pizza for yourself." I was shocked by her sudden plans that she didn't mention before. "You didn't tell me you had plans. I thought we were gonna watch our shows together." She had this brief look of fear on her face before she pulled herself together. "Sorry, baby, I was asked to join them today." He looked at her, a mix of confusion and anger in his eyes. "You just found out about it today and in the short time you had off work, you changed plans." So, she got all dolled up, tanned, and did her hair. He couldn't help but get a bit suspicious. She seemed like the perfect suburban soccer mom, always looking after her family. Their relationship was solid, with lots of love and communication. She tried to explain herself, saying she only worked half a day and wanted to look good for a change. But her words hurt, and as she walked out of the room, he started doubting their relationship and wondering what had changed. He stayed up late, waiting for her to come back, and she finally showed up just before midnight. Her hair was just in a ponytail instead of all done up like I thought. She walked right past me without saying anything and headed upstairs. I soon heard the shower running and couldn't help but wonder why she needed a shower before bed. She didn't even say goodnight or come back down. I knew something was wrong in our perfect life, but I didn't realize how bad it was. On Saturday morning, I usually work in retail management. My routine is to wake her up and she'd give me a goodbye kiss. But this time, I got nothing. It shocked me when I arrived at the store. I saw Missy hanging out by the entrance of the store. Missy is the cool barista at the coffee shop inside the big store. She has a great smile and her eyes are a beautiful blue. Even though she's married, I can't help but have a little crush on her. I've always had a thing for redheads. Hey Bill. Missy said to me as I walked up to the entrance. We still had half an hour before the store opened. The night crew could have let her in early, but she once told me she didn't feel safe being alone in the store with a bunch of guys. Smart move. Hey Missy, good morning. I greeted her as I unlocked the doors for both of us. You look kinda down, Bill. What's on your mind? Oh, just lots of stuff going on today, I replied, trying to brush it off. Missy raised an eyebrow but didn't push the issue. Give me a few minutes and I'll have a fresh cup of coffee waiting for you, I promised with a smile. I'll be right back. I locked up the doors as she hurried to get the cafe ready for the busy morning ahead. I knew it was going to be a crazy morning, like it always was at our place. Hey, I just wanted to let you know that I stopped by the small coffee business today. I made sure to touch base with the different teams working in their own areas as I walked around. Even though my department managers are really good at their jobs, I still did a walkthrough in the morning. It wasn't really necessary, but it gave me a chance to say hi to my teammates and chat with them for a bit. Building connections with my team members is really important, and I think they appreciated the effort. Finally, I made it to the coffee shop where Missy had my large black coffee ready for me. She handed it to me saying, "Here you go, sir, 1 cup of our premium coffee." I thanked her and put $2 on the counter. No way, sir, it's on the house today. I really can't let you pay. I can't take the chance of someone getting upset and complaining to corporate. She looked shocked. Sir, I would never do that. I wasn't talking about you. I know the deal. It's just not worth the trouble. Sometimes I have to make tough calls, like saying no to a day off or cutting back on overtime. I can't handle any more problems. All good, sir, I get it. I said goodbye and took a sip of my coffee. The staff sometimes got free coffee, but it was hard to keep track of who got what. I mean, who really cares about monitoring that? It's not worth the hassle for a measly cup of coffee. I can't imagine wasting hours checking if everyone paid just to be the top dog. Dealing with employees and their complaints about minor stuff was annoying. I remember getting reported to HR for enforcing the employee parking policy. Having to call HR just because someone parked in the back lot was ridiculous. Thankfully, the day ended without any major issues. The highlight was catching an old lady stealing cat food and bird seed. It was pretty amusing. Today was chill, just what I needed. I was keeping busy enough to not dwell on my issues with the wife, but still managed to get all my stuff done on time. When I got home, I found my wife and daughters all dolled up and ready to go out. I was a bit surprised, but then I remembered they had a thing planned with other moms and girls. They kissed my cheek and didn't say much as they left. I totally forgot about the whole thing, as per usual. I was hoping to have a chance to chat with them before they left. Katie and I were trying to figure out what was going on. I hated not knowing what she had done the night before. After ignoring it all day, I couldn't help but think about it at night. I decided to investigate further. I checked her emails, but realized it was a waste of time since no one really uses emails anymore. I couldn't see her texts or call logs because she had her phone with her. I then searched through the laundry hoping to find something from the night before, but it was Saturday and she had already done the washing. My efforts were pointless and I gave up. I watched a movie, then went to bed without figuring anything out. I woke up the next morning to celebrate my birthday and Father's Day. I had some toast and coffee for breakfast, then sat on the balcony enjoying the beautiful morning. The birds were singing and I was thinking about what surprises the day had in store for me. It was 9 a.m. and I was ready for whatever was coming my way. I walked into the living room to grab more coffee and was shocked to see my wife and daughters making a lunch. I was like, what's going on? I was wondering why they were planning a trip without me. My daughter Jill told me they were going to the beach. I was like, wow, and quickly ran upstairs to get ready. Jenny, my other daughter, yelled out, "Bye, Daddy," as I was putting on my shirt. The door closed and I watched from the window as my family drove off. I couldn't believe it. I didn't think the girls would remember my birthday, so I had to. Man, I always make sure to bug them about remembering their mom's birthday and Mother's Day, but I never thought Katie would actually forget. My phone started ringing as I was walking down the stairs, and I felt pretty bummed out. I hurried over to it, hoping someone would realize the mistake and let me know they'd come back for me. But nope, it was my mom on the line. She said, "Hello Billy, happy birthday and Father's Day." I thanked her and asked if Katie had any plans for you guys today. She said, "Nope, she took the girls to the beach a little while ago." Really? That's not like her. I would have bet she'd make you a nice breakfast and make your day extra special. Yeah, I really don't know what's going on right now, so don't worry about it. She's probably planning something special for later. I need to go to church now. I love you, Billy. Love you, Mom. I couldn't help but admire my mother's optimism. She adored Katie like she was her own daughter. They had regular visits since my father died a few years ago. I was preoccupied with my marital situation when the phone rang. "Hey Bill, so there was some drama at the coffee shop this morning. My assistant manager told me what went down. Missy was up on a ladder when a customer accidentally knocked into her, causing her to lose her balance and take a fall. I asked if she was okay and was relieved to hear that she's at St. Alex getting x-rays because she might have a broken arm or something. Poor girl. I made sure we have shift coverage sorted out, so no worries there. Just wanted to give you a heads up before you come in tomorrow. Oh, and happy Father's Day." I said thanks and hoped Missy gets better soon. I replied, "No worries," and thanked them for calling. I was hoping Missy would be okay. I wandered around the house aimlessly and then realized they weren't coming back. So, I decided to go to IHOP for breakfast. It wasn't the best choice for my emotions because the wait was long and the place was full of happy families celebrating fathers and grandfathers. I couldn't help but feel a bit sad, so I left before it got too much. I ended up driving through McDonald's instead. Instead of going inside, I decided to hit up the drive-thru for a big breakfast with coffee and OJ. The pancakes were actually pretty tasty as I chowed down in the park with a plastic fork and knife. I looked out at the little lake where I used to take my girls paddle boating when they were young. They were water babies, always loving to swim, boat, or fish. The lake held so many good memories. But as they got older and started college, they lost interest in fishing trips with their old men. They'd rather do their own thing. Chillin' with Mom was cool, but going shopping for clothes with Dad wasn't exactly thrilling for a young girl. By 1 p.m., the narrator's wife still hadn't hit him up, so he figured they weren't grabbing lunch together. He hit up the Daku Cafe and ordered a sandwich with a funny name like the Revolution of the Dollar Reuben. Being a 40-year-old dude who wasn't exactly hip to the latest trends, he snapped a pic of his meal and posted it online. So, I was just on Facebook and got the usual likes and Father's Day shoutouts from my friends and coworkers. Funny enough, my mother-in-law thought I was at the beach with my wife and kids because she commented on a beach pic my wife posted. After lunch, I headed to a nearby bar to catch a sports game and have a drink, but it was packed. So, I ended up at the cigar lounge next door and splurged on an Opus X cigar. I was enjoying the game when two guys playing cards asked me to join them. "I'm Bill," I said. "Hey there, I'm Lance and this is my brother Jerry. Nice to meet you guys." We all started playing cards together and Lance invited me to join. He even offered me a Miller Lite from the cooler. Jerry jokingly asked if I had any kids, to which I replied that my wife and daughters were at the beach and probably had no idea what day it was. Lance mentioned how much he missed his boys who were in the military, while Jerry talked about his daughter in California and his grandson who just had his birthday. "Hey, I'm gonna be hanging out with two buddies next week." We were playing a game and bonding over our experiences as parents. After some small talk, Jerry asked me if I thought she really forgot or if she's just avoiding you on purpose. We both thought about it for a minute. I told them about some stuff that happened before the fight on Friday night, and they were sympathetic. Lance straight up said she's cheating on you, and Jerry agreed. I was shocked at first, but then I realized it made the most sense, even though I didn't want to admit it. "Listen, Bill," Lance told me. "I've been through some rough shit before, the change in behavior, the surprise nights out, the disrespect. I've seen it all. My wife and a coworker, they got a little too cozy for my liking. When I found out, it was a game changer. I ended up divorcing her, and man, that was the worst decision I ever made. People were like, she cheated on you, why would divorcing her be a mistake? But to me, there's no excuse for cheating. That's the end of a marriage, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But Bill, he told me I was wrong for holding onto it for 5 years. Hey, I used to pay alimony and child support, feeling lonely and missing her. We both had our own loneliness when we were apart. I was too hesitant to forgive her when I found out she was cheating after 7 years. But we reunited and now we're happy together. I can't stand the thought of my wife being with another man. If she's cheating, she either forgot my birthday because she's too caught up with her lover, or she's purposely ignoring me. Neither situation is okay. Lance nodded, understanding what I was saying. Hey, if you really care about her, you gotta learn to forgive her. It'll be good for you in the end. Thanks, Lance, you've really got me thinking. But deep down, I knew I was crazy to even think about forgiving her for what she did. I couldn't picture us ever getting back together after she cheated. We said our goodbyes, shook hands, and wished each other well. Later that night, I was sitting on the couch scrolling through Facebook when I came across my family's posts with pictures of them having a great time. It just made me even sadder. Alright, I thought to myself, I need to sort this out. Gotta toughen up and stop feeling like a lost cause. My wife totally missed my birthday by accident, happens to the best of us. She also forgot Father's Day, but hey, what can you do? The real kicker was when I started suspecting she might be cheating on me, especially after her weird behavior lately. Her constant reminders were probably just her way of getting back at me. Well, she succeeded in ending things, so it's time to move on with my life. I decided to treat myself to dinner at my favorite restaurant. I knew it would be packed, but I had nothing better to do, so I freshened up and put on something nice. I threw on a nice blazer and pants and headed out for a steak. While waiting for a table at the steakhouse, I sat at the bar. An older guy sat next to me, filling the empty seat. He noticed a lone glass next to a champagne bottle and looked puzzled. Without saying anything, he ordered a martini. The bartender topped up my glass and the guy couldn't help but ask if I was celebrating or if I had taken someone's seat. I told him I was flying solo. He nodded and took a sip of his drink. He seemed chatty, maybe in sales. He told me he was waiting for something. My wife's helping our daughter who broke her arm today. She's having trouble using her left hand. He laughed and said, "You never expect your grown kids to have accidents." I nodded in agreement. Looks like I'll be making my own meals for a while. My wife will be busy taking care of the kids and leaving me to fend for myself. I perked up. What did you say? Before he could answer, a little girl yelled, "Grandpa," from across the room and ran through the busy bar. A little red-headed kid hopped onto his lap and started hugging and kissing him. Just then, I heard Bill call my name. I turned and saw Missy with who I assumed was her mom standing next to me. Her mom looked just like her, except for a few wrinkles around the eyes. They were like twins. "Hey Missy, how's your arm doing?" "It's all right, I'm on some strong painkillers so I don't feel much." It was a bitch when they said it though. Missy introduced me to her parents, Jack and Mary, and her daughter Mia. "Where's your wife?" "Bill," Missy asked me if I knew if she took my daughters to the beach this morning, and I haven't heard from them all day on Father's Day. To make matters worse, it's also my birthday today. Did she really ditch you on the best day of the year for you? What's her deal?" I was hesitant to bring it up further, but Mary insisted, saying you have to join us. Jack laughed and warned me, saying it's not a pretty sight when they gang up on you. "But hey, it's our day, Jack." He winked at me as their table buzzer went off. "Pay your tab, Bill, and meet us at our spot." "Table, don't bail on us," he said with a funny tone. He tossed $20 on the bar and walked away. "Sorry Bill, my family can be weird." "No worries, Missy, I guess it's better than eating alone." The conversation during dinner was full of jokes. Bill and I shared stories about our daughters growing up, and Mia asked about our own youth. She couldn't stop laughing at her mom's hilarious childhood tales. After dinner, my phone rang. I saw it was my wife calling and ignored it, putting the phone on the table. "Is that your wife, Mary?" she asked. "Come on, you know there's more to it than that." "I think so too, but I can't prove it." "Bill, everyone messes up," Mary said, looking at Jack. "Maybe you can find a way to forgive her." Mrs. Head turned her head and gave Mary a stern look. I called the waiter and paid the bill with my card. All right, I don't want to ruin your meeting any longer. Thanks for inviting me to dinner, Bill. Jack, it was a pleasure eating with you and your awesome staff. It's on me. Happy Father's Day. I shook their hands and left. Okay, so I was at the table ready to pay the bill, and I didn't have solid proof that she was cheating on me, but 2 other people had already told me to forgive her. What's up with people? My phone was ringing off the hook, but I just ignored it. When I got home and pulled into the garage, my 2 happy kids came running up to me, giving me kisses and hugs. They felt bad for forgetting Father's Day, but I told them not to worry about it. I wasn't expecting them to remember my birthday either. Turns out, it was actually Jill's birthday, and she ran inside yelling about it. They didn't know, so it's all good. Sorry, she was bawling on my shoulder, you probably hate us now. But babe, I love you more than anything. When she suggested hitting the beach today, we were all in and didn't think twice. Don't stress, I'm not mad at you. I just didn't tell her mom I wasn't happy, but that's on me, not you. Let's head inside now. I walked past the heated chat between my wife and daughters in the living room and went upstairs to switch into shorts and a tank top. Then I came back down. I found my wife crying by herself, and she whispered, "I'm so sorry." I just shook my head and went out onto the deck with a drink and a smoke. The night was peaceful, and I actually enjoyed the quiet for once. I was more focused on my work than on my wife. When the sliding door opened, she avoided looking at me and didn't come out onto the deck any further. "Bill," she paused, "who was the man you were with on Friday?" That's when my anger boiled over. I heard the door close, but she didn't come out to confront me. She didn't deny it, and I knew then that it was time to see a divorce lawyer. It was bound to happen after being married for over 20 years, everything was falling apart. I couldn't help but see her as a mistake. Doubt crept in. How long had she been cheating on me? Was he the first guy? Did I even know him? Were the kids really mine? Negative feelings consumed me as I felt the pain of being betrayed. During the divorce, I made sure to get a paternity test for the girls. It wasn't just for my own sanity, but also to make Katie feel ashamed. I spent the whole night researching about divorce. Man, I was looking up internet laws before passing out on the couch. What a way to celebrate my birthday. Woke up at a depressing 5 a.m. in my bedroom. Katie was knocked out, snuggled up to my pillow. It was funny how peaceful she looked after my restless night. Her half-naked body was gorgeous. Shame she's not mine anymore. Gonna miss her. Quickly got dressed, took a shower, and left the room without waking her. Jill was waiting for me in the. "Man, things are really bad, Daddy. I can't believe how terrible this is. Can you forgive her?" "I mean, it's just forgetting a day, Dad. She didn't forget my birthday or Father's Day." "I think she's cheating on me," he gasped. "No way, sweetie, I don't think she would," Dad replied. "But Dad, think about it. She's been acting weird lately. On Friday night, she dressed up and got her hair done, and it wasn't for me. And then on Saturday and Sunday, she avoided me. She must have been feeling guilty or mad. When is she ever going to take you to the beach without me? It's always been a family thing. What if it's not cheating? What if it was just a one-time thing? Can't you forgive her for that?" "I don't know, Dad. She never acted like she loved me once this weekend." "Dad, you should have seen Jenny's reaction when Grandma asked why she didn't call Grandpa on Father's Day. She screamed and dropped the phone so loud we thought something was wrong with Grandpa. He's okay, though." Mom was really upset. She cried on the floor. Jenny even suggested we call an ambulance for her. We calmed her down and she called you Jill. I don't know what you want me to say. She doesn't love me. Cheating on your partner is not love, it's being selfish. Love should be selfless. When she went to another man, she pushed me away. She hugged me and cried. I bet it wasn't some random dude. She must have been flirting or letting him flirt with her. There were probably intimate touches, maybe kissing and caressing, all leading up to them hooking up. Cheating on your partner is not cool. You can't truly love someone if you're also messing around with someone else. Don't break up with her. I gotta head to work now, we'll chat later. She went into Jenny's room excited to catch up. They knew there'd be no more secrets in the family. How long would their family last? Katie was too busy at work to reach out, so she had a chill day. The only thing different was dealing with Mrs. Accident paperwork. She'd get workers' comp. She got paid for taking time off work and she hoped Missy wasn't having a hard time. They didn't know much about her personal life, just that she wasn't married. Missy came in to sign some forms and finish her report with her left hand, struggling to write it out. "How's everything at home?" she asked. "Not good," Missy replied. She didn't deny it when I mentioned her affair. "Darn it, Bill, I'm sorry. I can tell you're hurting. My ex-husband cheated on me when I was pregnant. I kicked him out before our daughter was even born. My mom was really upset about it. Wow, she basically called me a quitter. I found it strange when your mom talked about forgiving my wife last night. She was looking right at your father when she said it." "Yeah, I noticed that too. I'm not sure which one did it, but it makes me think one of them wasn't faithful. I apologize, don't worry about it. They seem happy, so they can live however they want. I've decided not to trust anyone who cheats me too." I agreed firmly. Katie wasn't home when I arrived from work. I suspected she was with her. My friend was acting sketchy, so I went to her job to see what was up. I saw her in her car talking to some dude, and when she saw me, she freaked out and tried to stop me from leaving. I felt so hurt and betrayed. Back at home, Jenny and Jill were crying, begging me to stay. They were like, "Dad, there must be a misunderstanding. But I saw some shady stuff today. A woman had a man in her car after work and couldn't explain it. They were just having lunch in the back of the parking lot, but come on, there's no innocent reason for that. Hey Dad, please don't break up our family." Jenny was crying because of the guy in her car. I told them it's not my fault and gave them a kiss on the cheek. I promised to stay in touch every day. I left them crying in the bedroom and headed to the garage. As I was driving out, Katie almost hit me as she pulled in like a maniac. I shook my head and drove on. The next week was a total nightmare. I ignored my wife's constant calls for 3 days, deleting each message she left after that. The squad told me to confront her about cheating, but no one would confirm it, so I got fed up and stopped answering calls from everyone except my girls. They finally saw that I was being genuine by the end of the week. I met with a lawyer to make sure our stuff was divided fairly. I was planning on giving my ex-wife the house until our daughters moved out, then selling it. My lawyer said I could get more than half of the house money because I put more down and paid more each month, but I wanted it split evenly. It just felt right. I thought I was gonna have to pay my ex-wife alimony, but luckily she has a job so she doesn't need my money. It was the best news I've heard in a while because it means I don't have to pay her for cheating on me. Through it all, I found some inner strength and stood up to her family's insults. I was determined to protect myself and my future, so I went to court seeking justice and fairness. Through it all, I stayed strong and confident that the truth would come out. She said she only saw the child once on the Friday before my birthday, and that's the story she told everyone. I was seen as the problem for not letting her explain. My mom called me a coward for not standing up for my marriage, and my wife's mom said we were even because I wasn't there for her during tough times. The daughter suggested I move in with the family to avoid drama. Messing them up for life, it was like something out of a movie. Even though I was innocent, I still got blamed for the divorce. Things got crazy when I asked my girls for their spit for a DNA test. They didn't want to, so I had to fib and say it was a court thing. Katie sent a letter to my shop talking about her time. She got all caught up with a kid barely 21. They hooked up in the back of his car, but it wasn't all that great. Just because someone's hot doesn't mean there's real chemistry. After finding out she was with that dude, Katie wanted him to back off, but the damage was already done. Cheating once is enough to ruin a relationship. When I got the letter, I realized I didn't have to prove she was unfaithful to get divorced. She had already made it clear. It made things easier for me. I didn't have to argue about irreconcilable differences or show that we tried to save the marriage. It looks like karma was finally on my side when the court looked at my case. So, basically, my wife cheated on me and we decided to get a divorce. She agreed to it and in 60 days it was all done. But then I was left on my own, feeling like a total loser. I didn't even talk to my ex-wife after that, which made me look like a fool. My mom and daughter also stopped talking to me, which was really tough. I tried calling my daughters every other day, but they never picked up. I left them voicemails to keep them in the loop about my life and ask about theirs. I took responsibility for our lack of communication. Hey, I've been dealing with some stuff and trying to keep in touch with them regularly, even though they may not always be feeling it. My routine got thrown off when I started meeting Missy for coffee on Sundays. We actually met at a local cafe by chance. Missy and her daughter Mia live close by and we went for a walk together. I invited them to join me while Mia watched cartoons on my iPad. Missy reassured me that your daughters will eventually warm up to me. She said they're still young and open-minded, so there's hope. I really hope she's right. I just hope they come around. So, the next week I went back to that cafe and I was just chilling, reading a book, when suddenly I hear, "Hey stranger." I looked up and saw those two girls with their friendly faces. They came over and sat at my table. One of them asked me, "Do you always come here, or are you following us?" with a smirk. I was like, "Nah, I just live around here and I like coming here on Sunday mornings to have my coffee and read." We chatted about the neighborhood, had a few laughs, and then said our goodbyes. It wasn't like we planned to hang out or anything, it just happened. We used to meet up every Sunday, but when we did, I always had a great time with her. Little Mia was so cute. On the day of our daughter's school musical, I went to my old house and my wife answered the door. It was clear she had been crying. She didn't say anything, just gestured for me to come inside. "Are the girls home?" I asked. "They're at the school musical," she replied. "I knew you'd come today," she said, smiling. "Did you wait until it was too late to try and stop it?" I asked. "Yes, I did. I knew you'd try to convince me to give our marriage another shot, but I couldn't do it. You hurt me deeply, Bill, and I won't ever forget it. I can't believe you're still holding this against me. It was just one mistake. Can't you see how much I cared about you?" I tried to explain, but he just laughed. "Was it love when you were flirting with that guy? Were you keeping secrets from me? When were you spending all your time with him instead of me? When you left me all by myself?" Hey, on my birthday, I started bawling. I never meant for any of this to happen. I loved you too, but you shook your head and broke my heart, Katie. You turned my family against me, and I'm not sure if I can ever forgive you for that. This mess is on you for being so unreasonable. I took a deep breath and calmly said, "We need to all come together to fix this and move on. Because of what you did, they might end up thinking you're the hero and I'm the villain, but it's not that simple. It's more than just one incident." I gently told her we can't keep this up, we need to move on and find happiness elsewhere. I left the room feeling a mix of sadness and relief. A few weeks later, Missy knocked on my office door. "Come in," I smiled, thinking she had good news. But Missy hesitated before asking, "Is it against the rules to date co-workers?" I frowned, disappointed she brought up the topic instead of addressing my previous comment about our strict corporate policies. "Yo, we got a rule against harassment at work. Basically, if you and a coworker break up and start causing drama, it's on you, not the company." She was like, "I'm glad our policy is crystal clear." Oh, and she added her address and number to the file for me. Invited me and Mia to dinner tomorrow night. I was touched and excited for the meal. "Dad here, just checking in. Hope everything's cool with you and your sis. Same old stuff happening in my world, except I met someone at work. Hey, for dinner I really miss you and love you. Please give me a call soon. Bye." I know leaving that message might have been a bit confusing, but I didn't explain because I needed to move on and I was excited to meet someone new. Missy was amazing, beautiful and with a great personality. Her daughter was so smart and cute, and I had already met her parents. It felt like I was finally moving forward. Katie texted me just 15 minutes later saying she couldn't believe I was already moving on. She said I was a real surprise. I chuckled as I read it. I never thought she was that crazy to expect me to sit around worrying about her. Some people might be pissed because their marriage ended due to a cheater, but not me. I was still young at 41 and could find love again. Hell, I could even have more kids if I wanted. Missy was in her 30s and might want kids in the future. It's too early to think about that stuff, but as a single mom, Missy might see the value in it. Looking for someone who's husband material, not just a fling. But hey, wouldn't mind being her bit on the side. It's been ages since we got freaky. So, the next day I cleaned up, trimmed my beard, threw on some casual clothes feeling pretty good about myself. Checked out my fit body in the mirror, still looking good for my age. Got a steady job and money situation, feeling pretty confident about getting back in the dating game. Thinking about maybe going for a younger chick. Hey Missy, I finally figured out that I was missing out on all the little things that come with being married. The everyday routine, the comfort of knowing each other inside and out, holding hands, kissing, and those special intimate moments. As I started this new chapter in my life, I realized how crucial it is for me to bring back the excitement of seduction and rediscover the joy of getting close with someone again. I knew my ex-wife's likes and dislikes in the bedroom like the back of my hand. I could tell when she wanted something passionate or gentle, and where to touch her to drive her wild. And now, I hope that my next partner. So, I was hoping to find someone who was into the same stuff as me or at least willing to talk about it. I was stressing out that maybe I wasn't really ready to start dating and had maybe jumped into it too fast. But anyway, I showed up at her place with a gift, a bottle of wine, some flowers, and a cute stuffed animal. Hopefully she'll think I'm sweet or whatever. When she opened the door, I was totally surprised by how she looked. Her curly red hair was all around her face and she had just the right amount of makeup on. She was wearing this cute little sundress that showed off her legs, and she was barefoot with bright pink nail polish on her fingers and toes. She asked me in a playful way, like, "Hey, do I look good or what?" I replied without any regrets. She laughed and took the flowers and wine from me. "I'm just chilling and watching TV, so feel free to say hi. She'll definitely love the bear." She went to the kitchen and I knelt down next to Mia. "Hey there, sweetheart, I brought you a bear." She paused, then her face lit up with a smile as she took the bear and ran off to show her friend Missy. With the bear in her arms, she started reminiscing about Jenny and Jill's childhood days. It had been a while since she last talked to them and she missed them a lot. "What's up, Missy?" she asked. "Snap out of it, what's up?" Missy asked, noticing her friend's distant expression. "Just thinking about my daughters when they were Mia's age," she replied, forcing a smile. "Is everything all right now?" Missy inquired. "Not really," she sighed. "Katie turned the girls against me, and I can't seem to connect with them. I still leave them messages every other day though." "I'm sorry, Bill," Missy sympathized. "That must be really tough for you." "It is," she agreed. "I know they hear my messages. I even told them about our date tonight, but Katie just texted me, calling me a jerk for moving on so quickly." "Is everything okay?" Missy asked, concerned. "I can see you're a little uncomfortable with the look in her eyes." "It's not that, I'm just not used to someone being so direct," I said, blushing a bit. "But I appreciate your honesty," she smiled, her eyes sparkling. "Let's enjoy our dinner and maybe we can talk more when we're on the couch." "Wow, I had no idea how much gossip your divorce has stirred up around here," she said with a grin. "It's no wonder that all the single ladies are noticing you. You're a good-looking, smart, stable guy, and we all know how much you value." I felt so loyal as I sat down at her table, proud that I got here early. She mentioned I held her hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. "I appreciate you too, Mia," I said. Not wanting to be left out, Mia chimed in and said, "She's my favorite." "Me too," I agreed. "The more Slurpee, the better." I noticed the can of Parmesan cheese on the table and added, "And don't forget the extra stinky cheese." She giggled and corrected me, saying, "It's not stinky cheese, it's Parma stinky cheese." I held the can to my nose and I made a face like I smelled something strong. "Wow, that stinks." Missy rolled her eyes as I handed the can to Mia. She took a whiff, smiled, and poured some on her spaghetti. We chatted about Mia's preschool and friends, keeping the conversation light. Missy watched us with a smile but stayed quiet. As we talked, I saw Missy getting up to clear the table. "Let me help," I offered. She shook her head and said, "No, she hasn't told me." "Have you heard about her favorite TV shows yet?" She couldn't stop giggling when Mia was going on about her favorite cartoons. Once Mia was finally asleep, Missy joined me on the couch. I passed her a glass of juice and she grinned as she kicked up her feet on the ottoman. Being a mom is incredible, but this moment right here is the best part of my day. I put my arm around her and she snuggled closer. I can't even imagine how hard it must be with 2 kids. I sighed. It's definitely a challenge, but we're doing our best. I hope they'll come around eventually. Missy gave me a kiss on the cheek and said, "You're a great dad." "Hey, keep putting in effort with them," she said, placing her glass down and leaning back. "Bill, I've already told you how I feel about you, and at my age, I'm not interested in playing games. I want to keep seeing you, even inviting you into my bedroom." She held up her finger to hush him. "I get that you want to be a gentleman, but that's not what I'm after. I want to make it clear that I'm not looking for a casual fling or friends with benefits. I want a committed relationship. As a mother, I want a husband for myself. My daughter and I think you might be the one. I've seen guys freak out when we have talks like this, but I'm not saying you're one of them. I just want to give you the option to enjoy being single and have some fun, without holding you back. But if you're up for seeing where things could go between us, I'm all in." I was shocked by what she said. "Did you rehearse that or was it spontaneous?" She looked upset, thinking I was doubting her honesty. "Missy, we've got some work to do. We've been hanging out for 3 years now, and these coffee dates have been pretty fun. I've always been all about family, so being single is a bit daunting for me. The thought of dating freaks me out, to be honest. If my wife had stayed loyal, I'd still be happily married. I'm not interested in dating around." She smiled and held my hand. "You're sweet, funny, and you make amazing spaghetti," she said. I chuckled and playfully hit her shoulder. "I'd like to be your friend. Let's work together to create something good for all of us." Me and your girl didn't really have a moment that night, even though I wanted to open up more. I figured it was best to take it slow for both of us. She seemed to be into it, but I thought it would be better for everyone to just take our time. Then, one day, I got this awesome chance when an application came in for a manager job I needed to fill. Turns out, it was that punk kid who wrecked my marriage. But, I decided to give him a shot and hired him. Okay, so on his second night at work, I totally snuck into the parking lot without him knowing and put a 40-inch TV from a rival company in the back seat of his car. The TV looked just like the one we had in the stock room, and I knew it was gonna be missing in the morning. When his shift was ending, I timed it so I could walk out with him and casually chat about his team. As we got to his car, I spotted the TV in the back seat and was like, "Jeff, did you seriously buy a TV before your shift?" I acted all shocked and stuff. And he was like, "Nah man, that's not mine, no clue how it got there." Hilarious, right? Yo, Jeff, we gotta go back inside the store. Bill checked the cameras, and even though he didn't want to, I agreed. All right, grab the TV. We went back in and saw that the kid was freaked out. The store didn't have security overnight because it closed at night and just had a night crew. Cameras were everywhere, but only the managers could control them. There was one camera facing the door, but it was above a stairwell entrance. The problem was reported to corporate security years ago, but nothing was done about it. To shut down the system, all you had to do was open the stairwell door, block the camera, and unplug the computer. When I caught him in the act and saw that the computer wasn't working, he started freaking out and swearing he didn't do anything wrong. I called the cops like I was supposed to, and in the end, the guy got a slap on the wrist with a misdemeanor charge and dodged jail time. I had hoped he'd get a harsher punishment, but the TV he stole wasn't worth enough. Instead, he got stuck with a ton of community service hours and a hefty fine. Man, that new TV I bought cost a fortune. And to top it off, having a felony on my record has made it tough to find a retail job. But hey, at least it didn't outweigh the benefits I got from taking some risks. Like, the company finally decided to beef up security with those parking lot cameras. One Saturday morning, after a dinner meeting, I saw Missy sitting in her car trying to keep warm. I parked next to her and she greeted me with a kiss. "Are we still good for dinner tonight?" she asked. "Definitely," I said. "I've got something planned. I'm cooking up something special for us that you definitely don't want to miss," she said with excitement in her voice. Just then, Katie popped up from behind him, interrupting their chat. "Excuse me, Missy," she shouted, her tone showing her annoyance. "Katie, what do you want?" he asked, trying to stay calm. "I've been trying to reach you. Did you block my number?" Katie asked, her voice tinged with curiosity. "Yes, after all our talks about me messing up, I'd had enough." "What do you want to discuss?" "We gotta figure out what our daughter is gonna do for college. I want her to have the freedom to choose her own path. I've made sure she has the money she needs. I want to be involved, but since you mess things up, she won't even talk to me. She's worried you won't follow through with paying for her college. But don't worry, I'll take care of it. I still care about them, even though we're divorced." Missy laughed and Katie got serious, saying, "It's not my fault you couldn't handle my one mistake. You couldn't keep it on the down low, so that's on you. Hey, I dealt with that situation immediately, but we still need to stick together as a family and deal with this together. Let me set the record straight, you played a role in the events that caused my marriage to end, the rift with my family, and my daughter's disapproval. Just so you know, if I ever find out you're romantically involved with someone, you can forget about a second date. No one wants to be with someone who has a history of betrayal, unless they're cool with it and just looking for a casual thing." As I was walking to the store, I heard voices behind me and turned around to see what was up. Missy was in Katie's face, pointing her finger and telling her to stay away from my men. "You dumped him," and I picked up the pieces. I quickly stepped in and pulled them apart. "Missy, she's not worth the drama, you hear me, woman?" Missy yelled at Katie before storming off to the store. "Just go, Katie, our issues are in the past and it's all your fault." I left Katie crying by the cars. I tried to catch up to Missy, who was out of breath. I took her hand and she looked up at me, smiling as she calmed down. "I'm sorry, Bill, I must have been a mess. Man, my mom is so overprotective. It's nice when people care about you though." I just smiled and we went inside to get our work done. Later that day, my mom called me, but when I answered, she made a weird noise and the call got cut off. I heard a thud and then the line went dead. I tried calling back, but no one picked up. I ended up calling 911 to ask for an ambulance to go to my mom's house. They told me that someone had already called from her location. So, my friend was worried about me and told me to be careful as I had to leave. I agreed, and as I was rushing through the store, I passed by Missy, who shouted after me. I didn't stop and went straight to my car. When I got to my mom's house, the ambulance had already left, so I decided to follow it. When I got to the hospital, I found out that my mom had passed away before the ambulance even got there. She must have passed out during our phone call. I sat in the waiting room of the emergency department, crying and thinking about the last thing my mom said to me. What was she planning? I was thinking, oh shit, I'm in trouble, I feel like I'm having a heart attack. "I'm sorry," Missy called me. "Hey, my mom just died." "Bill, I'm really sorry." "Thanks, but I'm not gonna be good company tonight." "Don't worry, I'll be there for you. If you need me, just say the word and I'll come over." "All right, cool." I told her I didn't want to be alone and I was glad she decided to join me. "I'm heading home now, meet me there after you finish work." "Okay, see you soon." I ended the call and headed to my car instead of going home. I went to my old house to talk to my girls and see if they wanted to see me. As I got closer, I saw both of their cars in the driveway and on the side. I never expected the first words we'd exchange to be about this kind of news. I wasn't worried that I hadn't been around in a while. I punched in the garage door code and went inside. I was relieved to see that Katie's car wasn't there. I didn't feel like dealing with her. The living room and kitchen were empty, so I went upstairs. Wow, bedrooms galore. Dad, Jill exclaimed as I entered her room. "What do you want, Jenny?" she yelled, appearing behind me. "Have you come to beg?" "Well, you may visit Grandma." "I had a heart attack and died this morning," I remarked, interrupting her. They both gasped. "I wanted to tell you in person." "I'll get punished for it." I exited the room, closed the door, and departed. I heard Jenny cry for me to wait, but I dashed to my car and sped away from the side of a little frozen lake as the water began to thaw. A woman reflected on the joyful times she had spent with her. Sitting on a picnic bench, the woman felt sad and confused as she saw her ex-husband Katie and their daughters coming towards her. Seeing them stirred up a bunch of emotions as she tried to figure out what she did to push them away. As they got closer, she wondered if there was a way to fix things with her daughters and bring peace back to their lives. "How did you find me here?" I asked, turning around. "Hey Bill," Katie replied to your message about the phone app sync. "I'm really sorry about your mom passing away. Did you mean to cancel our plans to meet up? Or are you sorry for causing her to turn against me before we could make things right?" She didn't say anything, just told me to leave her alone because she couldn't handle it. I told her I'll never forgive you for what you did to me. Her last words to me were that she wouldn't talk to me again unless I manned up and dropped the divorce. Then she hung up without even saying she loved me. I feel really bad, Bill. "Man," I heard her leave and then Jenny chimed in, saying, "Daddy, we're sorry too. Please forgive us for being dumb." My girls both came running at me and hugged me, and we cried together for a bit. "It's not your fault, ladies. It's your mother's actions that tore us apart." Then Jill spoke up, saying, "We're sorry, Dad. We think you should forgive her. She loves you, it's obvious. Just not enough to keep you faithful to me." I apologized, saying, "Girls, I'm so sorry." We hugged again while Katie watched from the sidelines. "Hey girls, I really need you. You're leaving for college soon and I'm gonna miss you. We've been wasting so much time." "Dad," Jenny said, "we won't keep you out anymore." Jill added that we wish Mom had the chance to do the same. "Dad, can we come to your new house? We haven't seen it yet. Maybe we can grab some pizza." "Of course, tell your mother and let's go." When I pulled into my driveway, I saw Mrs. Carr. I forgot she was coming over. "Girls, looks like you're gonna meet Missy. Is she your friend?" They all asked at the same time, which made me smile. "Yeah, I mean we were just getting to know each other." "Look at him, Jenny, smile, it's really sweet." They waved goodbye and went into the house. They greeted Missy with enthusiasm and I could tell she was a little surprised. "Girls, bring it inside and I'll introduce you all." They waved goodbye and went into the house. They greeted Missy with enthusiasm and I could tell she was surprised. "Girls, bring it inside and I'll introduce you all." They waved goodbye and went into the house. I greeted Missy with a lot of excitement and could see she was taken aback. I told the girls to bring the letter B inside and then I introduced them all. They gave me a kiss on the cheek and went into my garage. I went up to a confused Missy and said sorry about that. She opened the door, smiled big, and kissed my cheek. "Your daughter is fine, let me introduce you to everyone." "I hope I look okay," she said, and I reassured her. "They'll love you," I said. We walked in and I said, "Jenny and Jill, meet Missy." They gave her a big hug. Jenny was like, "You look awesome." Then Jill chimed in, "Great job, Dad." Missy just laughed, and I was totally caught off guard. "Now, let's quickly check out the house before we get ready for Grandma's service," my wife said. "I'll order some pizza," she added. "Perfect," I agreed. The girls were thrilled. I decided to hold off on calling people to tell them about my mom's passing until the next day. I plan to put an obituary in the Monday paper and post service details on Facebook after we visit the funeral home on Sunday. After dinner, we just hung out for hours. Been sharing some funny stories about my mom with Missy, thanks to my daughters spilling the beans about some embarrassing moments of mine. Can you believe they brought up the time I slipped and fell into the lake because the pier was wet? I swear, it was already past 10 a.m. when I noticed. Anyway, we've been hanging out longer than planned and it's getting late. The girls begged to stay the night, but I don't have beds set up in the guest rooms yet. How about this? I'll come get you in the morning and we can head out too. Breakfast good for you? I could use some help figuring out what to do with Grandma's stuff. Dad will help with whatever you need. Thanks, Missy. Want to go for a ride? She's staying with my parents. Jill piped in, "Who's Mia?" "Mia is my 4-year-old daughter," Jenny replied. They both squealed and Jenny said, "Oh my God, I can't wait to meet her." Missy laughed at their excitement and said, "Someday soon, I promise." "All right, let's head out." "They're wonderful girls," Missy said as we sat on the couch shortly after returning to my house. "Nice to hear you patched things up with them." I let out a sigh of relief, feeling the same way. It's tough losing her. She snuggled into my arms and we both fell asleep. When I woke up, she had covered us with a cozy blanket and was still cuddled up to me. I wished for that kind of closeness with someone. I gently kissed her head and apologized for falling asleep on her. She whispered that it was fine, saying I had a rough day. I asked if she wanted to join me and the girls for breakfast, as long as Mia could come too. My folks had some stuff going on this morning, but the girls are gonna love having her around. I went and grabbed Mia from her mom's place and we headed to IHOP to meet up with my girls. As soon as they saw her, they were all over her, laughing and being super sweet. Mia was cracking up and smiling, having a blast with their funny antics. Then she suddenly announced she needed to go pee, and my girls were quick to offer to take her to the bathroom. As we sat down, I teased Missy about whether she thought our daughters would hit it off. She playfully smacked my shoulder and gave me a kiss on the cheek, making it clear they would. She really wanted to be friends for the long haul, even though it was still early days in our relationship. Her positive attitude was cute but kind of weird at the same time. As we sat down to eat, Mia and my girls chatted away about all sorts of stuff. Mia seemed to love talking and was super curious about my girls' lives. Luckily, my girls were pros at babysitting and knew all the latest kids' shows and movies, so they hit it off with Mia right away. They also got along great with Missy, and there was no drama or bad vibes between them. When Mia started hanging out with her, my girls wouldn't talk to me for months after my divorce. So, when they suddenly accepted Mia so easily, I was confused. After a busy day of making calls, cleaning my mom's house, and going to the funeral home, I finally had a chance to relax. The girls came over for dinner, but Missy and Mia left after breakfast. Missy thought it would be too hard for us and didn't want to put Mia through all the questioning. We were going through my mom's stuff, Dad. Missy Jenny randomly asked you if you like her. We've only hung out a few times after work, so I told her it's too soon to tell if we're in love. Okay, Father, Jill said jokingly. Have you ever seen those old cartoons where the girls' eyelids flutter and they put their hands near their cheeks while looking at their crush? I nodded, munching on my pizza. When she bats her eyes at you, it's like hearts are floating around her head. Jill just kept talking before I could even deny it, and then they both looked at each other, then at me, and said, "We like her." My happiness at seeing my daughters turned into anger. I put my fork down on my plate, wiped my hands, and walked over to the sink. I leaned against the counter with my back to them, trying to calm down. "Dad," Jenny asked with a curious tone, "why have you both been acting like you don't care about me all this time?" I looked at them, my eyes filled with questions. "What did I do to make you think it was okay to push me away? I've been so upset. How many times have I cried after leaving you a message and knowing you didn't give a damn about replying?" Jill hesitated before speaking up. "Mom told us that if you were afraid of losing us, you would make amends with her and we could be a family again. We're really sorry." I turned to look at them. Jenny quickly hugged me when she saw the tear on my cheek. "Dad, please forgive us. We were told that you had abandoned us and refused to pay for college because we wanted you to stay with her. She said the messages were all lies. Did you really act all polite during the divorce just to impress the judge? And do you really think her dad bought it? We were there with her every day, listening to her try to justify her one mistake compared to the 20 years of love we had. We felt like you were being unfair. Do you want your men to cheat on you?" There was no answer. "Where do you draw the line? Once, twice, 5 times. Tell me." We hugged and it brought some comfort. I felt guilty. "I'm sorry, kids. I've missed you all so much." When they told me how they felt about me, I told them it's time to go back to school. Classes start tomorrow, so make sure your teacher knows about the memorial service and funeral. You'll need some time off this week. We hugged one last time and as I watched them leave, my heart felt warm. I looked up at the sky and said, "You didn't have to bring them back, Mom, but thanks. I'll miss you." Weeks have always been tough for me because I don't like being in a room with a dead person. My mom's wake was especially hard. I walked up to the. I've been checking out the casket a few times today, just looking at her. She seemed pretty calm, and I was relieved that she'd finally be back with my dad. He passed away a few years ago after fighting cancer, and he didn't want a traditional wake because he thought it was weird for people to hang around a dead body. Meanwhile, his mom had everything planned out for her own service, even picking out her own coffin. All he had to do was set a date and take care of the little details like setting up the room and the ceremony. He really respected her planning skills as he stood up at the front of the room. His mom's friends came up to him, then his daughters and Katie came into the room. They each gave him a sincere, emotional hug. Katie said a prayer before putting a special photo in the casket. The picture showed me, Katie, and my mom hugging, with Katie holding our babies. Her smile was so contagious. As I carefully placed the photo next to her hands, I couldn't help but cry. The minister led the prayer service, and even though Katie stayed in the back, her strong bond with everyone was obvious. The family was all sitting in the front row of chairs like they were supposed to. The girls were on one side and Misty was on the other, but something didn't sit right with me. I looked back and saw Katie wiping away her tears. It just didn't feel right to leave her back there. My mom would have wanted Katie up front too. So, I went to the back and grabbed Katie's hand, telling her to come up front. "You don't need to hide back here," I said. She cried, hugged me, and whispered a thank you. We walked to the front and Uncle John gave her the seat next to my daughter. "You are Bill, my good friend," Missy whispered as she lightly kissed my cheek. It felt weird holding her hand with my ex-wife nearby. I hoped it wouldn't come back to bite me in the ass later. As we said goodbye to the last guests, Katie came up to me with Missy by my side. I was curious to see how Katie would react. I prayed she would just respect my mother's wishes and not start any drama. "Thanks for inviting me to be part of the family today, Bill. It means a lot to me." She was like, "I'd be so honored to ride in the limo with you, the girls, and Missy tomorrow." Then she pulled me into a tight hug and started crying. Missy put her hand on my back, and I couldn't help but worry about some drama going down. Katie broke away from the hug and was all like, "If you don't need anything else from me, I'll head out." I shook my head, and she gave a quick smile to Missy. "I'm glad you're here for him. You might not know this, but he was a mama's boy. It's gonna be rough when he..." Once she realized she had left the room, Missy wrapped her arm around me and said, "Let's get you home." I walked into my house, feeling relieved that the day was finally over. Missy was sitting at the kitchen table, so I handed her a cold beer. "I think everything with Katie went better than you thought." "You handled it well," she said as we sipped our drinks. "I'm relieved. I thought she might cause some trouble for you. The girls must have helped keep things calm. We just need to get through today, and everything will be all right." I hoped she was right. I had a bad feeling that Katie wouldn't get along with Missy. Maybe I was just being paranoid. "Will you stay with me tonight?" I asked. She smiled and held my hand. "You couldn't get rid of me even if you tried." We didn't do anything intimate, but she cuddled with me and it was the best sleep I've had since the divorce. "You're keeping a close eye on me." "I promise I won't abuse your power by starting a fight," Katie said as we waited for the prayer to start. "I know," I replied. "I mean, even though it wasn't true, it's just really bothering me," she said with a scoff. "How do you think it feels for me? I'm the outsider here." I furrowed my brow. "No one sees you like that, especially not today." "I'm really sorry, Bill. I wish I could undo what happened." She started to cry and hurried off to the restroom. "It's hard on all of us, Bill," my mom's friend Jean said, patting my shoulder. "Your mom was a wonderful woman and we'll all miss her." I kissed her cheek and showed my appreciation. Man, I was so thankful that Katie had my mom's back when she had that emotional breakdown after the funeral. We all went to my mom's favorite Polish restaurant for the post-funeral meal, and the place was packed. Katie looked a bit out of place as she tried to find a seat, so I went up to her again, grabbed her hand, and led her to the table where Missy, my daughters, and I were sitting. I told her that no matter what, she's still family to us because of the divorce. A tear fell from her eye as she sat down and thanked me. I can't even remember when I stopped feeling the hurt she caused me, but it feels like I've moved on from it now. Time kept ticking, the girls went off to college and still call me every week. Missy and I are still together and I'm thinking about popping the question soon. Katie and I don't really talk much, but we're cordial. She's moved on and is dating a divorced dad of one of the girls' friends. He seems like a good guy. I hope they find happiness together. Some might say I should have forgiven her for what she did, but I just can't bring myself to do it. Some people might think I'm a bad guy, but I'm cool with myself. Here's the deal, Johnny, a college grad from a rich fam, is tall, over 6 feet, and weighs a bit over 200 pounds. Even though he's big, he never played sports. He was all about his education, scored a scholarship, and graduated top of his class. Back in the day, he wanted to work in the pharmaceutical industry. Now, he visits different medical places like hospitals and centers for his job. Working at the doctor's office means I gotta deal with all sorts of people. I'm on the road for 3 to 4 days a week, crashing at motels. While I love my job, it can get pretty lonely at times. I always thought I'd be hitched by now, but my crazy travel schedule makes it hard to find something long-term. One day, I was getting a checkup at a clinic and I couldn't help but notice this cute receptionist handing out samples. She was all dolled up, but not too over the top. So, I was chilling in the waiting room, waiting for my usual nurse, when I started chatting with this girl named Mary Waters. She's 24, just graduated from some state college. Next time I saw her, I asked her out and she said yes. We went out for dinner and got to know each other. I shared some college stories, nothing too crazy though. I always treated my dates right, never took advantage of anyone. My folks drilled these values into me since I was young. I was always studying, but it didn't feel like a chore. He waited for her to reply, and she just smiled. I haven't found a job that really grabs my attention, so I'm just a receptionist. But I've always loved hanging out with my sorority sisters and their friends. For years with those girls is a lot. He asked her how she spends her free time, and she said she still hangs out with her old classmates. We usually hit up lounges to listen to music and have some drinks. Dancing is a great way to relax and hang out with friends, you know. So, he asked me if I've got someone special in my life. Nope, I don't have a significant other. I usually just hang out with my friends, some of whom are married, but we still have a good time together. As time went by, it was time to go, and Johnny had an idea. He said, I'd like to see Mary again. So, Johnny asked Mary, hey Mary, wanna grab dinner sometime? Mary replied, sure Johnny, I'd love to. They made plans to meet up while Johnny was in town. So, he lived just about 60 miles away, so he had more time when he was traveling for work. Our first few dates were just grabbing some food and catching a movie. We shared a goodnight kiss, but that's about it. She had this super infectious smile and was always so positive. For our third date, she suggested we hit up a dance club. She looked amazing when I picked her up, and I could feel myself starting to really like her. After a few hours of eating and dancing, I invited her back to my hotel room, and she said yes. When we got there, I turned on the TV to a music channel, and we sat on the couch. She even put her legs up on me. I was gently rubbing her ankles and feet in my lap, and she seemed to really enjoy it. As our kisses got more intense, I asked if she wanted to take things to the next level. She was totally on board. I was so grateful for her kindness. We got up, and I helped her strip down to a cute pink top and bottom. Our connection grew stronger as I slowly took off her top. She had on some really nice clothes that weren't too flashy, but were definitely well made. I've seen a lot of outfits before, but hers was something special. Mary's got a style that no one can beat, man. She always looks flawless in her outfits, showing off her perfect figure. I couldn't help but admire and appreciate her as she got into bed. I wasted no time taking off my clothes, leaving just my boxers on. She laid in the middle of the huge bed while I slowly took off her underwear. She had a nicely groomed pubic area with a cute little landing strip. She begged me, Johnny, please, explore my intimate area. I hesitated for a sec before agreeing. Wow, yes, she whimpered as I kissed her passionately, loving every minute of it. It felt amazing, I didn't want it to stop. I started to lick and kiss her, driving her wild with pleasure. Her juices dripped down my chin as I moved closer to her, kissing her softly. I reached for a condom in the nightstand, and she asked me to put it on for her. I handed it to her as she leaned back and put it on me in a new and exciting way. The whole experience was so enjoyable that I was almost at my climax when she got on top. The sensations became even more intense, and I moaned softly. Me and her were getting it on and she was really into it. We both reached our peak together, then she cuddled up close and asked if I wanted to stay the night. I said yes, of course. We turned off the lights and snuggled up in each other's arms. During the night, I felt a gentle touch and was surprised to find her hands on me. I was a bit out of it, but I put on a condom and slowly got closer to her. As we connected, our bodies responded and we had a really intimate time together. We both felt relieved and soon drifted off to sleep. The next morning, she woke up. I went to the bathroom to shower, and when she came back wrapped in a towel, I got dressed and made us coffee. We shared a sweet kiss, then I took a shower. When I joined her, she was already dressed and made sure she had clean clothes. I dropped her off at home quickly before heading out for breakfast. That simple morning meal marked the beginning of our awesome friendship. Whenever I was in town, we'd meet for dinner every couple of weeks. We kept in touch over the phone while I was away. One day, I asked her how she spent her free time. She was like, let's hang out with her college friends at some local spots. Mary always looked super put together when we were out, except when we were chilling at home. We'd hit up museums, plays, and concerts together and always had a blast. She was down for whatever I suggested, a great sidekick. One weekend, she took me to meet her awesome parents. Turns out, they had another daughter, Beth, who was 22 and still living at home. I hadn't met her yet, but Mary said she was a great sister. Beth was working at an insurance company when Me and Mary were chatting about my job, then we kept talking before heading out for dinner. A couple of weeks later, Mary and I had dinner with her parents to celebrate their 25th wedding anniversary. Beth also came along and we had a great meal. It was nice to meet her. She was just as pretty as Mary but seemed more serious. She smiled at me during dinner, but I couldn't tell what she was thinking. I said goodbye to everyone and gave Mary a kiss before heading home, with her parents watching. I couldn't stop thinking about Beth, something just felt off. So, I got a call for a meeting on Monday, which was weird because it was at an insurance office instead of the usual medical building. I booked a midday appointment even though I rarely get calls from non-medical places. As I headed there, I had plenty of time to think. I was thinking about Mary who always looks perfect, and then there's Beth who is just drop-dead gorgeous. When I got to the office, I saw Beth at the front desk. Beth, were you the one who called me? What's up with John? I need to talk about my sister. Hey mate, Mary is my bestie and she's super important to me. Let's go get some grub and have a chat. Nice to meet you, Beth, I'm Johnny. I'm here to listen to whatever you need to get off your chest. Beth told her boss there might be a delay, so we hit up this cool little restaurant. We kept it simple with lunch and she started talking. She said, Johnny, I care about you and just want you to be happy. Then she dropped a bombshell. Mary may look all happy and cute with you, but when she's with me, she spills the tea about how things with you aren't always rosy. She's got some feelings she's been keeping on the down low. Mary is always being pushed to do stuff she doesn't really want to do. I hope this info helps you figure out what to do about her. Besides Mary, it seems like she's got a whole other side to her. She's always been a bit mysterious. In college, she found a group of friends who love having adventures and fun just like her. When she's not with you, she's out exploring the world with her other pals. It's hard to believe, I know. When we were having lunch, I couldn't stop thinking about Mary. Her mysterious personality just makes her even more intriguing. I was really into her. I'll let you know where she'll be this weekend, but keep it on the down low from her. You'll see a whole new side of her. She brought up a group trip to the Bahamas with her friends and she wants you to come along in about a week. She'll try to convince you to go, just remember that's what most girls want in a relationship. Maybe I got your desires wrong, but the places and things you like doing with Mary might be what you both want. Just make sure you get it. You know what, I'm not even sure if Mary's folks have a clue about her double life. She's like a pro at keeping it under wraps. I found out when we both ended up at the same college and she and her crew tried to rope me in. I made it clear that I wasn't about that life. Sharing this intel with you took a lot of work on my end, but I feel like I can trust you. I didn't want to see you get hurt. Just so you know, Mary's been thinking about getting into modeling or acting. Her and a few of her friends are into it. I'm thinking of taking a trip to Hollywood next month. After lunch, I dropped off Beth at work and went to my next meeting. Even though Mary was nice, I couldn't stop thinking about our conversation that evening. I couldn't help but wonder why Beth shared so much about her sister on Friday. Beth called me and told me about a weird party Mary and her friend were having in a nearby county the next day. I got curious, so I decided to drive there and check it out. So, I checked out the lounge that Beth suggested and man, it was kinda run down. I was surprised to see Mary there. I didn't think she'd be into that kind of spot. The upstairs had a view of the whole place, with tables, booths, and a dance floor. Most of the people there looked like they were straight out of a factory, but luckily I was dressed casual so I fit right in. I was on my second beer when a big group of like 12 people showed up, and I spotted Mary right away. She was dressed pretty sexy, her skirt barely covering her knees and no bra on. The group of guys and girls were scattered at different tables, ordering drinks. There wasn't any live music, but the jukebox was going strong. Mary and her friends hit the dance floor, going all out and not holding back. They danced freely and confidently, catching everyone's eye. Some guys joined in and things got more lively with some playful interactions. People were dancing close, playfully touching each other. One guy even danced with her. So, Mary and I were at this party, right? And during a slow song, they started getting pretty cozy. Then, this guy leans in and kisses her, putting his arm around her waist. Mary seemed into it, but I wasn't feeling it. I decided to peace out, so I headed downstairs and snuck out the back door to clear my head. We had plans for the week ahead, but I was unsure about bringing it up with her. I didn't want Beth to be involved in our conversation on Monday. As I was driving, Mary called up Johnny and scored us 2 free tickets to a weekend cruise. I asked Beth to come along, but she said she couldn't make the time. Hey, are you off work too? Who else is going? I asked. I asked some of my friends and they'll be there, so you'll have a chance to meet them. We'll have our own room too. I would love to go, I replied. We agreed on a time for me to pick her up on Thursday and drive her to the dock. I wasn't sure what we'd do on the boat, but maybe I'll have a special moment with Mary one last time. When I picked her up, she seemed more relaxed and open than usual. We got to the cruise ship with plenty of time to spare and explored until we found our cabin. Who gave? Hey, I got the tickets from a friend who scored them through work. I have some cool surprises in store for you that I think you'll really like. I was curious about the captain, so we crashed the send-off party. We met her and she introduced me as a close pal, along with 2 other folks who welcomed me warmly. Mary seemed chill, so we headed to the lounge to catch the band. They recognized Mary, but some dudes were getting a little too close for comfort. She shot me a look, but didn't say anything. I hit up the slots and actually won some cash. After that, I tried to find Mary, who was still deep in conversation. Me and Mary went out with her crew to a bomb dinner buffet where we grubbed on some amazing food. Then we hit up the lounge to vibe to the band. Mary's squad was mad chill, dancing, and having a blast. I peeped Mary talking to a few dudes all night. But then I started feeling hella tired, thinking my drink got spiked. I told Mary the first was bouncing to the cabin for some shut-eye. I passed out as soon as I hit the pillow. When I woke up in the morning, I saw I was but naked in bed with Mary, who was also naked. I woke up not remembering what went down between us or if we even did anything weird. So, I leaned over and lightly tapped Mary's shoulder, trying to see if there was any connection between us. I couldn't recall a single thing from the night before, but it seemed like she had company. My head was killing me, and I had a feeling someone slipped something into my drink. After I showered and got dressed, I decided to take a stroll around the ship. When I got back to my room, Mary came out of the bathroom all refreshed and looking good. "Hey there, lover," she said with a smile. "Hey Mary, what went down last night?" "I can't remember a thing. I was worried when I found out you were dancing with my friends at the party. You seemed pretty wasted when you headed back to the cabin earlier than planned. I joined you later and we ended up spending the night together. It was amazing and we were both so happy. Just so you know, we were safe. I used condoms and didn't see any in the trash. Johnny, I get where you're coming from about my behavior. Hey, these guys are actually pretty cool friends. We're heading to the Bahamas today and I think you should hang out with them. They're into you and who knows, you might have a good time with them if you give it a shot. Let's have a blast at the beach." I remember hearing something about a special day on the tour, so I asked a cruise ship worker about it. They said we could join in if we felt like it. I wasn't sure about it, so I waited to see what Mary thought. We grabbed some breakfast at the buffet and got ready in our swimsuits. At the beach, Mary looked like she had something to say, but I couldn't tell what she was thinking. She put on a gorgeous green bikini. When we got to the island, we saw some of her friends there. Bob asked, "Are you guys ready for the nude beach?" I replied, "Mary and I will stick to the regular beach." Bob suggested, "You can go to the nude beach if you want. This weekend's cruise is perfect for a chill getaway." I don't feel right about sharing Mary with others. I don't want her to feel uncomfortable around strangers. I just want to enjoy our time together and be. Hey, let's all go to the beach and have a good time together. Johnny, thanks for being cool about it, but I really just want to hang out with my friends. Hopefully we can still have a good time together in the future. I saw everyone heading to the beach for some kind of event, and Mary gave me a sad look before they all started stripping down. I waited a bit before following suit, curious about what was going on. My friends went further down the beach and I saw a couple sitting on a blanket in the distance. "Hey, excuse me, I'm looking for a friend, can I borrow you for a sec?" "Yo, check it out." So I borrowed this lady's binoculars for a sec and she was cool enough to give me her sunglasses as a nice gesture. I looked around and saw everyone on the beach having a good time with their buddies. After giving the shades back and saying thanks, I decided to go back to my room and change into my regular clothes. As I strolled back to the ship, I was thinking about the rest of the cruise. I talked to the captain and he told me about a small plane leaving later that day. I was thankful for the heads up and went back to my cabin. I packed up my stuff and hopped on a plane with a ticket in hand. I left a note for Mary, basically saying that I get it, she's all about her friends, and that's cool. I asked her not to hit me up anymore, but still wished her well in life. When I got back to Florida, they sorted out my ticket situation without a hitch, so I made it home easy peasy. Turns out everything Beth had told me was true, I was dating the wrong sister. I drove back and called up Beth like, "Hey, it's Johnny. I thought you were cruising with Mary. Where you at?" She replied, "I'm home, how about you?" So, Mary was telling me the truth. She wanted me to join their crew because they were all planning to party and they called it New Day. Honestly, it was just an excuse for them to hook up with each other. They never really matured. Anyway, I left a plane ticket for her. She'll probably call you to pick her up at the airport. Is it really over between you two? Yeah, I gave her an ultimatum. I told her I could forgive her past, but she had to choose between her past and her future. And she chose her friends and the beach. Thanks for giving me the heads up on what she's really like, Beth. Hey, maybe we'll catch up again sometime. Goodbye. By the way, I never heard back from Mary. But I did get a call from Beth the following week, just like you said, Johnny. Turns out Mary called me for a ride from the airport. She wouldn't stop talking about how she messed up with you when you gave her that ultimatum. Kept saying she made some mistakes with her friends and chose poorly. But all my feelings for Mary vanished when I saw her hanging out with Bob at the beach. Apparently, Bob invited Mary and one of her friends to join him in his band on a trip to Las Vegas in California. Crazy, right? So Beth and I broke up. I really hope she finds what she's looking for. I thought we had something special. Thanks for everything, Beth. As time went on, I kept grinding at work and making good money. But damn, I still missed Mary. She was so damn fine and fun to be around. Then I found out some shit about her and dating became a pain in the ass. I tried dating a few times, but it just wasn't the same. I even thought about hitting up Beth, but that seemed sketchy to move on from one sister to another. Time flew by and then Beth called me again. Hi. Beth greeted warmly. I have some news to share. Mary went to Las Vegas with Bob, even though Mom and Dad were worried. Mary said you guys had ended things and mentioned that you could have her. She really likes you, but was just using you before. Mom thought you could change her. Anyway, would you like to go out with me this Saturday? I was surprised. I couldn't help but notice Beth's attractiveness and charm. Sure, I agreed. But are you sure about this? Yes, Beth replied confidently. I've always liked you. I reckon this is the right call, all right. You choose the spot you want to go to, just tell me if I should dress fancy or casual, it's all on you. If we dress fancy, we can grab dinner at a nice lounge with chill music and maybe some dancing. When I swung by to pick her up for our date, her mom greeted me at the door and even gave me a hug. Then Beth walked in with a big smile showing off her dimples. "Beth, you look stunning. Where are we heading tonight?" I asked. "I managed to snag us a table at the city lounge. Ever been there before?" "Nah, never heard of that local band playing covers of old jams. Been a fan since I was a kid, my folks loved them too. It was good seeing you again, Mrs. Waters." Was a bit worried at first because of her sister, but things went smoothly once we got to the restaurant. Beth shared some memories from back in the day. High school was easy for me, but I had no clue what I wanted to do for a career. Went to state college after graduation hoping to figure it out. Started working at I work in insurance, but I'm not just a receptionist. I'm also getting my license to become an agent. I deal with a bunch of walk-ins and answer questions for clients. She had a gorgeous smile that caught my attention. Sometimes I would compare her to her sister and couldn't help but feel a bit jealous. She was just as impressive, if not more, than Mary. But as I found out the truth about her sister, my view changed. I asked if she was dating anyone or had a boyfriend, and she replied, "If I had a boyfriend, we wouldn't be here." So, back in high school and college, I went on a few dates, but I wasn't out there hooking up with everyone, so most of those dates were just one-time things. I've always wanted to find someone I can trust, who accepts me for me, not just how I look. I dream of having a family with a nice house and at least 2 kids, along with a faithful partner who I can be loyal to. It's getting harder to find someone like that these days, which is why Mary's comments about our relationship really got to me. Sorry for bringing her up. Don't worry, Beth, I could see you were really feeling it. Let's go to the lounge and listen to some old tunes. I really want to cuddle you, and I swear I'll always keep it real with you. I won't BS you. We walked into the lounge and it was filled with a bunch of middle-aged folks. Beth said the band's music was what brought everyone together. She introduced me to some people and said this place was one of her faves. We sat down, got some drinks, and jammed out to some throwback tunes from our parents' time. I asked Beth where and when we should do this again. We were dancing and she hugged me, singing softly. Her voice was amazing. It felt like we've chatted and stared at each other like this before, but I can't remember when or where. She felt really good in my arms as we danced faster, capturing the smiles of people around us. After a while, I complimented her beautiful voice and found out she sang in both high school and college choirs. As the night ended, we danced to mellow tunes for another 2 hours. I hinted that I wanted to see her again soon and she mentioned visiting. We meet up every couple of weeks, but she suggested meeting up sooner, since she's only an hour away. I was excited when she mentioned going to a baseball game next weekend, a place I've always wanted to go. She smiled as I went in for a quick kiss on the cheek, then I stepped back, looked into her eyes, and kissed her again. After that, I said goodbye and drove all the way home, unable to stop thinking about her. Can 2 people really get so close so fast after just meeting? As soon as I got home, my phone rang and I wondered who it could be. "Hey, you called me pretty late. What's up?" "Oh, it's Beth. I didn't want to call while you were driving. My mom wants to know if you want to come over for dinner tomorrow. They're having a barbecue and my dad's grilling ribs. My mom told me to invite you. So, you in?" I couldn't help but smile. "Yeah, I'll be there. Do I need to bring anything?" Dad said some Miller Lite would be good. My mom likes wine coolers. Be there around noon. Miller Lite and wine coolers, got it. It's Beth. I had a blast tonight. Good times. Last night, I was trying to go to sleep but my brain just wouldn't shut off. The next morning, I took a shower and then went to the store. I showed up at Watt's place with a beer in one hand and some wine coolers in the other. Beth answered the door, gave me a hug, and planted a nice kiss on me. The next weekend, we went to the baseball game and had a blast. Beth had her blonde hair up in a ponytail and was rocking a baseball cap. She was a blast to hang out with. During the 7th inning stretch, she jumped up and yelled, "Take me out to the ball game," with everyone else. Wow, that girl had an amazing voice. We were hanging out every weekend, even went to an amusement park for some roller coaster fun. She was really down to earth. We hadn't gone past kissing yet, even though we'd been dating for over a month and a half. One Saturday, we went out to eat and then hit up the city lounge. While we were dancing, the owner came up and asked Beth to sing. She agreed, saying she occasionally performed for the crowd. That's why so many people knew her. Beth got up on stage and the owner introduced her by saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have Beth Waters singing for us tonight. For the regulars, you know how lucky we are to have her here." She then sang about relationships, belting out, "When I fall in love, it will last forever, or I'll never fall in love." In such a chaotic setting, love seemed impossible to attain, like it had never even started. The countless moonlit embraces seemed to lose their magic in the harsh light of day. Beth's beautiful voice captivated us all. Man, everyone in that room had tears in their eyes when she sang. When she finished, I joined in with the crowd clapping for her performance. Beth came back to our table and I couldn't stop kissing her. People kept coming up to Beth all night, but she handled it all coolly. As we were getting ready to leave, she asked if she could come back to my place for the night. She said we had waited long enough and told me she loved me. I told her I loved her too. We didn't talk on the way to my house, but once we got inside, hugged her again. "I really like you, Jacob. I'm excited to see where our relationship goes next. I've been into you ever since you opened up about your sister." It was a turning point for me and made me realize I was with the wrong person all this time. We went into my room and started taking our clothes off. We thought about using a condom, but Beth has been on the pill for years, so we figured it wasn't needed. We laid on the bed and shared a sweet kiss before I started exploring her body. I kissed and licked her neck gently before moving on to the next step. As we got closer, he went down to her chest and the area below her belly button. He then gently lowered himself to reach her perfectly groomed blonde hair, rubbing it with his face for a bit before lightly licking her sensitive spot. When it got firmer, he moved down to her sweet spot. She had a mind-blowing moment when his tongue touched her. With both hands on his head, she begged Johnny to get intimate with her, right then and there. He started by teasing her entrance with the tip of his manhood, moving up and down, up and down. He slowly got into her, they picked up the pace and she kept up with him eagerly. He said he was almost there and she joined him for an amazing feeling. It felt great. He put his weight on her while keeping his arms up. They stayed like that until her muscles relaxed. Finally, he walked away slowly. She looked at him and said softly, "Johnny, don't be mad, but Mary was right, you're a great partner." I smiled at her, turned off the lights, and we cuddled before falling asleep. She woke up and was in the kitchen making coffee. She had a perfect body, but I didn't compare her to her sister. We had breakfast together like it was our usual routine. After she finished, she asked if I could take her home. "No, I'm taking you somewhere amazing." "I'll let you know when we get there," I replied with a smile. We got dressed and went to my car. The drive was short, and she kept asking where we were going, but I just smiled and shook my head. Soon, we arrived at a gated community and I pressed the button. "Hey, I want you to meet my parents at their place. It might be weird, but I've never brought a girl here before." When we got there, I knocked on the door and the butler let us in. Then my mom came in, hugged me, and checked out Beth, asking who she was. She pointed out that I've never brought anyone here before. I introduced Beth as a close friend and mentioned that I want to marry her one day. Beth was surprised because we hadn't talked about that before. But I totally saw that coming. So I was like, "If you're so into her, why haven't you popped the question yet?" I was worried she wasn't ready and I wasn't sure if I could handle getting shut down. Mom was always straight up, but you couldn't help but respect her. I could just tell by the way she looks at you that she's head over heels for you, Beth. If Johnny got down on one knee, would you say yes? And Mrs. Jacobs, I've got a soft spot for your boy, so my answer would definitely be yes. Hang tight, I'll be right back. Then she disappeared into another room and came back with this stunning antique. "Hey Johnny, check out this ring. It belonged to your grandma and she wanted it to stay in the family. Your sister and brother were already hitched when she kicked the bucket. See if Beth likes it, she shouldn't have to wear a ring she's not into." Beth started crying and the butler gave her some tissues. Mrs. Jacob was in the living room checking out the fancy rings, blown away by how beautiful they were. Mom couldn't wait to spill the beans that Johnny had a girlfriend and was planning to pop the question. Johnny was all jittery but pumped. His mom gave him a little push to go for it, and he knew she was serious. He got down on one knee, grabbed Beth's hand, and said, "Beth, we haven't been together for long, but I think we can make it work. Will you marry me?" Beth's eyes got all teary as she said yes, and they shared a sweet kiss. Their families were cool with it and welcomed Beth with open arms. On the way to Beth's place, she asked about the wedding plans, and Johnny nervously introduced her to his folks. "Hey, so I was gonna introduce you to my parents, but as soon as my mom started talking, I just knew I had to do it. I hope you don't feel pressured," you said. "I was shocked, but I waited until you were ready." Beth's parents were ecstatic but also a bit cautious, worried we were moving too fast. Beth reassured her mom, saying, "Mom, I'm not pregnant, I'm just in love. We need time to plan everything, so let's wait a few months." Days turned into weeks, and Beth and her mom were busy with wedding plans. Church dates set and Beth convinced the cool band from our church to play at our reception. We decided not to move in together until after the wedding, so I ended up spending a lot of time driving back and forth. Not a big deal though. Then one night, Beth called me sounding all nervous, saying, "Johnny, I really need to talk to you, it's important. Can we chat now?" I told her it was late and we could talk tomorrow, but she kept insisting. Finally, she said Mary called and asked if we were getting married. I told her the truth, and now Mary wants to be my. "Hey Beth, we've always had each other's back since we were kids. Can you handle that? I'm done wishing for your sister, I'm only in love with you. If you trust her, I'm cool with it. Just remember, I want you and you're the one I'm marrying, Johnny. I love you so much. I'll talk to you tomorrow on the big day." I was so nervous at the wedding. The church was packed with people, some I knew and some I didn't. I waited as the music played and the doors at the back opened. So, the church doors opened and I just knew what was about to go down. Even though the pastor had explained everything during rehearsal, all I could think about was seeing Beth. And let me tell you, when she walked in, she looked absolutely stunning. I couldn't help but tear up, and they just wouldn't stop coming. Beth and her dad made their way over to me, and I was so dizzy as we said our vows. When the preacher pronounced us married, I grabbed Beth and gave her a passionate kiss. We walked into the reception hall and got greeted by all our friends and family. My heart was pounding when I hugged Mary for the first time, but after that, I felt nothing. I knew Beth was the one for me when the band played all our favorite oldies and classic wedding songs like YMCA, the Bunny Hop, the Macarena, and the Funny Chicken Dance. Dancing with Beth was incredible, it felt like we were the only ones on the dance floor. The night was unforgettable, our guests had a blast and kept complimenting us on the party. I ended up moving to Beth's town and we bought the house she always dreamed of, with a picket fence and even a hot tub that we both love. I really appreciate that I switched up my work hours so I can be home almost every night. It's been a year since we had our first kid and now we're expecting our third. Being a dad and hanging out with Beth are the best parts of my life. To celebrate our first day as a family, we just chilled at home, soaked in the hot tub, and showed each other some love. Life is pretty great. Thanks for tuning into my stories today. If you liked what you heard, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to leave a comment below with your thoughts. Let me know what you think about what happened. Stay safe.